Hello, Thursday morning. Man, this week's flying by in a lot of ways, I think, when you have the holiday Monday. You got some baseball coming up tomorrow at noon. Bill, is this going to be our first Friday show of the week on a Thursday?
Well, I'm, I guess, based on maybe the schedule for tomorrow, yes, I would say this is the beginning of Friday for me.
Fantastic. Patrick gave a nod there as well. A busy day of sports news yesterday after our show. So we need to talk about it. Let's start from the Gamecock perspective. And not overwhelmingly surprisingly, but I think just kind of a wait and see deal, and Gamecock fans getting confirmation yesterday that both Keyshawn Bryant and Jermaine Couisnard will be coming back to school. What'd you make of that news yesterday, Bill?
I think I don't want to overhype this team. I don't want to tell anybody because I feel like we've done that the last 3 or 4 years. I think the best word to describe, I'm interested to see what they look like. That's I have zero clue. Like I'm just interested to watch them. Like I'm not checked out. I'm not going to be checked out on them. I'm not going to be surprised if they end up being better than everybody expects. I'm not going to be surprised if they end up 500 and missing the NIT. I think that's just kind of where I'm at with South Carolina basketball. But I will say that I'm interested to watch them. Like I want to see what this product is that shows up on the floor with a bunch of with 7 new faces. I believe that's the ballpark area with Bryant and Couisnard back. I mean that's you will, I guess, technically have 4 starters back. I know Alonzo Frink didn't play last year, but as long as he's back, he started games. The Wildens Levesque has started games. Obviously, Couisnard and Bryant have started a bunch of games. I'm interested, and seeing those 2 guys back, I think maybe gives you hope that this team is going to be competitive and give you an entertaining show on a night in, night out basis. That's, I guess, what I take away from it. I don't know if there's anything else that I don't want to do. I don't want to hype them up and say, oh, that changes everything. This team's really good now. I'm just kind of interested to watch them play basketball.
Yeah, to me, this was more of avoiding a mistake for these 2 players who didn't seem NBA ready. Maybe professional basketball was an opportunity to some degree, but I feel like there's plenty more development that both these guys can go through. Bryant kind of on the traditional trajectory, right? He continues to get better and was really good early on in the SEC last year and then kind of plateaued off. Jermaine Couisnard with a bit of a sophomore slump after a tremendous redshirt freshman season.
I don't even, Tim, that's see that's the other part is interesting.
A little time.
Understatement, yeah. Like it was a massive sophomore slump, and so that's the other part. I'm with you that it's avoiding a mistake for those guys, but with the options that players have nowadays to be able to, they could have withdrawn their name and said, hey, South Carolina fans, Gamecock fans, I thank you for your time, but I'm going to enter the transfer portal. Those are 2 guys. I didn't know where Trey Hannibal would end up. It ended up being Murray State. I thought Jalen McCrary might end up a little bit higher because, I liked him as a player. South Florida is where he goes. Do we know where TJ Moss ended up? I should look that up.
Off the top of my head, I do not.
Yeah, but I say that again, you're not seeing guys transfer to within Power 5 conferences right now. I think both of these guys could have done that and gone to a Power 5 conference. So with all that being said, I'm very interested to see just how this basketball team looks like, and I think more with Couisnard, the development now maybe without McNeese State, by the way, is where TJ Moss is transferred to. Commits to McNeese State. So yeah, I mean, you haven't seen any of these guys transfer to either up or to a same level program. So what does Couisnard look like now? It's interesting that this news comes on the heels of the day after Seventh Woods announces his intentions. There's a lot of things, and all I can say is it's interesting. It's just interesting.
Patrick, what did you think with these 2 guys coming back? The announcement coming yesterday: Keyshawn Bryant, Jermaine Couisnard.
Yeah, think it would have probably not been a good decision. I mean, if either of them were thinking NBA, that was not going to happen next year. But at this point, I mean, sometimes we just see guys that say, I'm definitely not graduating from college. I only have so many years to make money playing basketball. Let's just go ahead and get this pro career started. And they don't care. They'll go right to Europe. They'll go to China. They'll go to the G League, whatever it may be, and they're happy to do so. So just for that reason, I wasn't sure if Keyshawn or Jermaine would come back. Keyshawn Bryant certainly has that athletic upside that probably would have gotten him a decent little contract if he had gone somewhere. But I mean, he just needs to develop his outside game. He needs to be able to create more off the dribble. Like right now, he's a freak athlete that is great in transition and really goes on some great runs. As it pertains to next year's team, I will find it hard to have some high expectations. I guess it's interesting now. Like it's a totally new group. I mean, this is the least we've known about a South Carolina team in years. I mean, I don't know when is the last time there's been this much turnover on one team. Probably the year after the Final Four, I would guess. But I just don't know how people are going to feel going into next season. It feels like you have a borderline lame duck coach at this point. The way things ended last year, just not on good terms. I just don't know. I don't know where the program's at. I don't know how good they're going to be this year. I don't know how fans are going to feel about it. I know seems like yesterday we got one of our first messages about basketball in a long time when we brought up Seventh Woods. So it just hasn't been discussed. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of excitement right now, but maybe getting a couple guys back that you have put up some big numbers for you and done some exciting things. At least Keyshawn Bryant is fun to watch above all else. So it adds a little bit of excitement to the season. I don't know what it does for the overall expectations of the team.
I think some much needed good news for Gamecock basketball and Frank Martin. And this kind of stabilizes, I feel like, what has been mass flux. Like you guys mentioned with all the transfers. Got to throw in Trey Anderson in there as well. I believe he ended up on the West Coast. Didn't I see that right? Like San Jose State-ish?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah, I think that was right. Forgot about him.
So college basketball, that is what it is. I mean, the massive news yesterday was that Duke's coach, Mike Krzyzewski, announcing that this upcoming season will be his last. And not only that, but that Duke is did they make it official? I don't know if they made it official or not, but I did see where John Shire is going to have a press conference tomorrow. Coach K is going to have it today at about 11:30, I think, somewhere in there. So former player John Shire is set to take over for Mike Krzyzewski at Duke. Bill, what'd you make of that news? Not shocking, obviously, that Mike Krzyzewski is going to retire, being that he's, I think, in his mid-70s right now. But to me, the massive news yesterday with that was that the kind of the succession plan was in place, and also that Mike Krzyzewski has always said he's not going to do a farewell tour, and then this is exactly what we're going to get this season.
You know, the first news story that broke yesterday was what was going on with the Boston Celtics with Danny Ainge retiring and Brad Stevens getting out of coaching and going to the front office. Because if this story if the Duke story had broke first, my first thought would have been, man, why didn't they make a strong play for Brad Stevens? Because there had been a lot of rumors that he wanted to get out of the NBA, which kind of was confirmed yesterday. Not so much that he wanted to get out of the NBA, but that the toll of coaching had worn on him a little bit, and that's why he's going to the front office role. And so it's kind of funny how news stories break, but that was kind of what I would have been thinking if the Duke story breaks in the morning, is that, Brad Stevens to Duke seems pretty good. Remember, Brad Stevens was really mentioned in connection with the Indiana job, one, because I think that's where he's from, obviously, and then coaching at Butler. But I would have thought that. So, but instead it breaks in reverse, and not only does it break in reverse, but Duke instantly already has the plan with John Shire, which I got to admit, I'm not sure that was the guy I would have pegged to be the lead person for the Krzyzewski replacement. Not ever coach. See, I'm not a fan of stuff like this. To me, this is the Ray Tanner, Chad Holbrook situation. I don't think you hand the keys to the Lamborghini over to a guy who's never been a head coach before. I think that's a recipe for disaster. And by Lamborghini, I mean an elite program. It's one thing. Clemson was not an elite program when the keys were handed to Dabo Swinney. Matter of fact, they fired Tommy Bowden. When you have a big-time coach move on or retire, I don't know. Did Bill Guthridge?
We've seen it both ways, right? I mean, Oklahoma, Ohio State, it works.
Yeah, from a football perspective, you're talking about with Lincoln Riley and Ryan.
The programs haven't blown up. Larry Coker went and won a national championship with an absolutely loaded roster, and then the program has pretty much fallen apart. Tim, refresh memory here. Bill Guthridge with North Carolina.
Dean Smith. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, success. I can't. That's going back in the day. I mean, would you call it a success? He retired. Guthridge ended up retiring. I don't think he was awful. Lincoln Riley and Ryan Day. I guess Ryan Day has coached for a national championship. So
it's kind of different when the greatest of all time retires, and clearly is very old and has been grooming him for this for a while. And I mean, we talked about it with UNC. They just want to keep it in the family. I mean, Duke is probably going to be that kind of job. There's no real precedent for it because he's been there for over 40 years.
40 years. Should be 41.
Yeah. So
yeah, except the family is so huge from a coaching perspective, and so many options would have been out there. This seems to be one of the least likely options. And I understand
what was that unlikely.
Okay, but when you have a guy like Mike Bray or Steve Wojciechowski, Johnny Dawkins, Tommy Amaker, any of those guys with a bunch of head coaching success have come through the family. Quinn Snyder's an NBA guy. I know he had trouble when he was in college figuring out the NCAA rules, but there's guys all over the place that have come through that Duke program and have sat on the bench beside Mike Krzyzewski through the years and have gone on to head coaching jobs already. And to have a guy that's never been a head coach, I understand what you're saying, Bill. This is a little different than the Ray Tanner to Chad Holbrook situation we saw. We didn't know that Ray Tanner was going to retire. That to me was the interesting part of this. Almost that the way that I was reading it, I'm not sure if I buy it. That Coach K kind of felt disingenuous or uncomfortable with going out and recruiting guys, and then with the questions of how long he was going to be there. The classic Steve Spurrier line, I'm going to be there 2 to 3 more years. Kind of crush the momentum of any kind of recruiting he had with the number 2 recruiting class at the time that just absolutely fell apart. Football is a little different. Basketball, to me, it seems much less important these days that you're going to tell guys you're going to be there 3 years when the best players that Duke brings in planning on being there 1 year. But that's the story. That Mike Krzyzewski felt uncomfortable at this point, promising recruits that he was going to be there multiple years. And so now he's thrown this out there that this will be the last year and John Shire will take over. Massive news, and we'll continue to discuss it in multiple ways for sure this morning, the impact Mike Krzyzewski has had and this transition for sure. But you're right, Bill, it was odd yesterday that the Brad Stevens news came down. When I first saw it, I was just like, oh, so Brad Stevens is just going to also be part of the personnel process or be in charge of the personnel process with the Celtics as he's the head coach. And I was just reading the headline. And then going down, I was surprised to see a guy who's had as much success for Jens Butler Bulldogs first, and then been able, one of those rare guys, to make that transition from college basketball to the NBA pretty successfully, moving into just the front office role at this age, and especially after, like you mentioned, being rumored or linked to that Indiana job, highly coveted is probably the best way to put that by the Indiana folks. And then to have the Coach K news come out yesterday, massive news for basketball in general, college basketball news, and some much needed good news for the Gamecocks with Keyshawn Bryant and Jermaine Couisnard announcing they're coming back to school. Several of you weighed in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line on that. David says it's hard to get too excited about those guys returning when they were part of the 6-15 season last year. Hopefully the new names can help elevate the program. Anonymous texter asking, what's the story with Frank? Will he be back and ready for next year? Yes, and Yes.
I think he meant Frink.
Oh,
That was what I took with him. That would make more sense.
We haven't heard anything official on that, correct?
Right.
By the way,
I think that's what he meant. I think that's what that's what I assumed he meant when he said ready for next year.
Yep, I think that's exactly right. I was not translating that in my autocorrect brain this morning. That's how the Cool Care Heating and Air text line works, though. Sometimes it turns out hilariously. Sometimes I'm just very confused. Either way, hit us up at 803-404-6100. Why don't we hear from someone on the Love Chevy phone lines that has hit us up at that number as well early this morning? Our buddy Gamecock Larry. No need for tremendous patience, Larry. Let's get your thoughts right off the top here. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine, feeling good like a young man should. But first, I got to put a shout out to my cardiologist nurse, Nurse Judy Nichols out of the VA. She called me yesterday afternoon late and explained things to me about my pacemaker and all the monitors they was talking about and got me on, and the medication, and she explained everything to me. And after that, I laid down and went to sleep and slept like a baby last night. But now, number 2, Root Hog, your Gilbert Indians are going down today. Number 3, Dr. Bulldog, Clemson Sean, maybe next year. Dr. Gamecock Macon, you going to the game tomorrow? Holler for both of us Friday. And now the question, how many games, if we stay out of the loser's bracket, do we have to win? Is it 3 or 4?
Great questions, Gamecock Larry. Good to hear from you.
First of all, you don't know. I mean,
yeah, I know.
Go ahead,
Larry. The answer is 3. You stay out of the loser's bracket. You only got to win 3.
If we stay out of the loser's bracket, we just have to win 3, right?
Right. Otherwise, you got to win 4.
Got to win 4.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out my pitcher. I'm trying to figure out my pitching rotation for this weekend. So now I got to start all over again. But I don't worry about all these coaching changes and all these players coming back and all these transfers and all that. What old Gamecock Larry is worried about is you got to show me on the court, show me on the field, show me on the track, and then I'll believe in you, and I believe in all my Gamecock sports.
Stop that. That's not true.
Go Gamecock.
Go Gamecock.
Gamecock Larry.
That's not true at all. You see nothing, and then you predict 12, and I'm surprised you didn't predict 32-0, right?
For Gamecock basketball?
Right, yeah.
Well, why you got to call out Gamecock Larry today? I mean, he just giving shout-outs like he won an award, Anthony says here on the live stream. He seemed like he's in a good mood. He's throwing out rhymes, feeling good like a young man should. Well done, Gamecock Larry.
By the way, one other basketball note from yesterday. I don't know if you saw this. I think it was like John Rothstein who puts out all the schedule news. Might have been Jeff Goodman. I don't know. Those two guys have become one and the same to me. But South Carolina finding out, or at least we finding out, another home game or another scheduled series. They will host Western Kentucky this year and then take a road trip to Western Kentucky in 2 years. Skip a year and then go to Western Kentucky and then host them again. I don't know. What is that? 4 years down the line. So a 2-for-1 there with Western Kentucky.
Interesting. The Darren Horns alma mater, the former coach that getting into. I don't see that being as very advantageous for the Gamecocks. It reminds me a lot of that East Carolina matchup on the football field. That if you go win at Western Kentucky, that's what.
Well, you've seen it. They've got this is part of basketball. The 2-for-1s. I don't know if you saw it. They're gonna. I think they're doing a 2-for-1 with Andy Kennedy. Maybe it's just a 1-for-1 in Alabama Birmingham.
But that one makes sense
hosting
with the personal connection with Frank Martin and Andy Kennedy. Do you know any kind of connection at Western Kentucky besides the old one from Darren Horn?
Rick Stansberry? I don't know. I got nothing.
Gotcha.
803-404-6100, the number into the program if you'd like to call or text. Great to hear from you guys already up and early with us this morning. Hope your Thursday's off to a good start. We'll do our part to get you in a good mood if we can. Who knows? We'll see. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Dan Patrick, weekdays 9.
Oh man, the 1-year-old on fire yesterday, just completely giving us a run for the money. I mentioned the 1-year-old because he has me much more associated, and the relationship with my floors these days is a lot more close than it has been in years past, because I'm always chasing around this dude, and there's always something going on the floor. He's picking up, putting in his mouth, the whole deal. So I'm paying much more attention to my floors these days. Fortunately, we've had some help at my house with keeping those floors as clean as possible. Zero Res carpet and air duct cleaning, done a great job cleaning our carpets, cleaned an area rug for us, cleaned also the tiles in the kitchen and the bathroom. Done a great job. Great professional results, which I expected. What I didn't expect was to feel good about Zero Res doing it with their specific process. They have a patented powered water system. You can learn all about it, ZeroResColumbia.com. What I need to know is that there are no harsh chemicals involved. So I have nothing to worry about when it comes to that 1-year-old running around, the 8 and 6-year-old. Sometimes they're all over the floors as well, whether I tell them they should be or not. Nothing to worry about from that standpoint. And also, no leftover soapy residue. That's why my carpets have stayed cleaner longer. Yours can as well. And right now, Zero Res has a great deal for you. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, only $119, plus a free hallway when you mention me, Tim Hill. Check them out online where you can book your appointment now at ZeroResColumbia.com. You can also give them a shout at 803-262-4020. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
I don't think the cold brew coffee that I've got has the same like caffeine kick that the hot coffee brewed in the coffee maker does. Notice I've tried it tastes better. I like this cold, already pre-made cold brew. If y'all ever drank that?
No.
I don't do cold coffee. What about you, Patrick?
No, I do iced coffee, but I don't buy the pre-made one. I just put ice in it.
Do you?
Yeah, because they're like at least $5 to get something that I can drink in one sitting. Yeah.
Yep, Tim, that's exactly how I feel. Plus, I've been up for a few hours already.
You've been up for a few hours?
Yeah. I'd rather not tell you, but I will, just because it'll enhance your impression that I'm an old person trapped in a 39-year-old's body. I don't know what happened. I woke up at 3. I didn't do anything athletic, but I woke up at 3 a.m. and my knee hurts. My left knee hurts like you wouldn't believe, and started kind of like swelling up. And I don't know if I messed up the meniscus again or what. I got up and fixed some breakfast and laid on the couch for a few hours.
Brutal.
So if you see lots of yawning, apologize. Normally you would not see that, but doing the live stream, everybody now gets to see the actual feelings. By the way, and I don't know if he's watching on the live stream. I don't know if our buddy watches on the live stream, but we got a tweet late yesterday afternoon, maybe last night, saying that he was marking. I think he tagged Jen in it. I made a what was it? A guy that told us, or a guy that I told maybe back in January not to call, text, or tweet at us again. And here we are on June 2nd, and he's still listening because he listened to yesterday's show and made a comment about Florida. I think he emailed Tim. Does anybody remember this? Does this ring a bell?
Not particularly.
I think so, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. I think I know the tweet you're talking about. I think I remember that guy emailing them.
Yep. So if he's watching, I appreciate him continuing to listen.
I didn't understand the tweet either.
Yeah.
He's saying we should have given Florida's 8-win season more respect. I don't know what he was saying.
Yeah, I didn't know.
We also disagreed on the subject, so him saying to all of us.
I think he was bookmarking it. John, you're going to tailgate at 9:30 tomorrow? That is going to be strong.
Attaboy. Help me out. What does he mean by screwball?
That's that peanut butter whiskey.
Thought it might be a new outdoor tail game.
They're okay to take. I've taken a couple shots of them. It's not something I could take more than 4 or 5 of. A little on the sweeter side.
It's got to be real cold.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's good if it's really cold. It's like Fireball.
So is it considered a breakfast food if it's peanut butter?
Clearly.
Yeah, mix it with some toast. Shot, toast, kind of, maybe throw in a banana.
Balanced breakfast.
Bacon's got a little bit too much. It's not. I think it's the sweetness that and the bacon. Nah, can't do that.
Well, I just saw somebody hit us up a while back, or hit like the afternoon show up on the text line saying their favorite food. This is Damon said my new favorite 107.5 The Game Memorial Day dessert: microwave bacon wrapped grapefruit. Well done. He's been listening.
Yeah, that text message from Danny. I don't know if you want to go down that path about Krzyzewski leaving as like Nick Saban. Who do you think Nick's going? That was the other thing that crossed my mind yesterday.
Okay, we'll get into that.
Who was my guy on the live stream? I don't think he's weighed in this morning. I think it was Mark. We got into the Dogecoin. I think it was Mark. Well, I couldn't help it. I got into AMC yesterday, and I got in at $49, and it's up to 75 right now.
Could you imagine telling yourself when that first Wall Street Bets thing happened that you were going to buy into AMC at 49?
You want to?
Back when all that the Reddit stuff went crazy, I guess. I don't know how long ago that was. Maybe 6 months ago. It was I don't know, for $3.
It was $8. It was $8 for a long time. I had it at $8. I bought it months ago when it was at $8, and it got up to 18, and it kind of went back down and went back up to 18, and so I sold it. I made some money back then. It wasn't. It was enough for a few bar tabs.
Right back in.
And that was the Financial Minute here on the live stream.
That's right.
Guys are up.
Danny on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100. Mike Krzyzewski leaving basketballs like Nick Saban leaving football. Interesting analogy. I mean, both are considered the best coaches in their respective sport. I get that. And then Danny asked the question that I don't think is worth exploring very much. Who do you think would take Nick Saban's job when he's gone? Because of all the conjecture or speculation about Mike Krzyzewski when he left, John Shire wasn't at the top of the list. At least if he was, you're a lot smarter than I am. And it's official that he's going to be kind of the coach in waiting this upcoming season and take over after Mike Krzyzewski officially retires after this year. This is when you bring up Nick Saban and Mike Krzyzewski, I get it. Both record-setting, most all-time wins is Krzyzewski. It's all about the championships with Nick Saban. His all-time wins aren't quite up there, just from a regular season standpoint. A couple of seasons in the NFL, and maybe not getting at it as young as some other coaches, Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno. But to me, I guess the question is, how long do you see Nick Saban continuing on? And I think it's easier in football than in college basketball, just because of the staff involved there and the support. I know you got a lot more to manage there from a numbers standpoint. I feel like from an intensity standpoint, college basketball coaches with those 32 regular season games, Bill, and how many specific decisions they make and how kind of integrated they are into the game, I feel like college football coaches can kind of cruise on a little bit longer than college basketball coaches for the most part. Would you agree? Disagree?
Good. I've been waiting to throw out this jab at Duke basketball. I don't know. Duke's a pretty easy job when you got Nike money helping steer players there. So, maybe Duke's a lot easier or basketball's a lot easier than Alabama football. But, Tim, I'd go the other way. I think recruiting in basketball, especially, I don't know, are you comparing the two sports as a whole, or are you comparing Duke and Alabama, Duke basketball and Alabama football? Because I think maybe the two are completely different. I think you might make it might be easier for football at South Carolina than it is for basketball. Whereas I think if you're asking me the two respective programs you just brought up, Duke and Alabama, I might actually say Alabama basketball is easier than Alabama football to maintain. Am I making sense? That's actually the direction I would go. If you're talking sports in general, college football versus college basketball, which one's easier? Or if you're talking specifically Duke versus Alabama?
Yeah, I'm talking specifically these two coaches, I guess, and then coaching in general. Like, because more games and they're so intense and you're right there on the floor, and Coach K famously has had such an impact on referees for so many years and is in the ear all the time. You're right there, as opposed to being a little bit more removed from football. You're not right beside the refs and the whole thing. I know Saban's always going nuts on the sidelines, and a lot of times it's at his own assistants or referees, and he's famously intense as well. But that's 15 times a year, as opposed to the high 30s, I think. Once you have 32 regular season games, you have the conference tournament, you got the NCAA tournament. Just from a frequency standpoint, I feel like it's easier to maintain from the football standpoint than the basketball standpoint.
I would say it's easier in basketball. Basketball, you at least get some vacation time. There's some down time there at the end of the season. Football, you think about the transition, say, for football, where you're maybe preparing for a bowl game or preparing for a playoff game, or even maybe the end of your season. If you don't make a bowl game, you're right into recruiting. And then you go into January and winter workouts start, and those seem pretty intense. And then you're into spring practice. And then as we're in a normal period, you're into evaluations and getting out and going to high schools. And then you got camps, as they are actually starting now on the regular schedule. There's not a lot of downtime. And if you're talking about recruiting in the recruiting world, and I think that's more of what I look at, you're trying to land 25 players, and I know you've got a larger staff, but I think as a head coach, you're trying to be involved with as many elite prospects as you can be. And, we've seen some of Nick Saban. I think, who was it? There was a player a few weeks ago that released a Nick Saban Zoom video that kind of showed his recruiting pitch. And I think that there's more to it in football. You're trying to manage so many people, so many players. You're trying to manage so much with the recruiting. Basketball, a little bit easier, I think. I think it's a little bit easier when you talk about less players, less staff, less recruiting, in my opinion.
Well,
Patrick, what you got?
Yeah, I'm totally with Tim here, because if you're Nick Saban, just from the perspective of continuing to win and keep your program where it is. If you're Alabama and you're Nick Saban, you're in a kid's living room, there's no doubt that Alabama is the best game in town. It's the best chance for you to go to the NFL and to achieve what you want to achieve. Mike Krzyzewski, the reason that he can't keep up now is because he's got to go into a kid's living room and say, here's why you should come to Duke and not go to the G League, why you should not go to the overtime league, which there's now like 3 kids under 18 that have $1 million contracts. You shouldn't go to Europe and make $1 million. Like, there's all these other things, and the game has changed so much that by itself is enough for me to say, all right, I'm done with this. And that's, I think, why he hung it up. I mean, I think he wanted to outlast Roy Williams. I think he wanted to also him taking a final season victory towards the least surprising thing of all time. But I just think he can't keep up with the changing landscape of it. Like, football is still, you got to go to college for 3 years and then you can go to the NFL. Basketball is such a different world now, and nobody even knows. Nobody has the first clue what it's going to look like in a couple years. So for Nick Saban to maintain it, he's not going to be competing against the XFL anytime soon. And basketball, you are, and the whole roster changes every single year. Whereas you have guys in the program in Alabama that are just ready to step in the next year. They just reload every single year, and it's no skin off his back to make that happen.
And from the recruiting standpoint, Bill, like, Alabama's pretty famous for just massively expanding its staff. There's so many people there. I feel like Saban's the closer. He comes in, flashes the championship rings, says, here's what you're going to do. You're going to practice against pros. Come on down. We'll do it with you or not. No big deal. You figure it out. The old Spurrier pitch kind of at the end to a certain degree, as opposed to Coach K, who is trying to pull these guys, I feel like, over to his program, away from Kentucky or Kansas or, fill in the blanks, and knowing what college basketball recruiting is and the blurred lines, let's say, to put it kindly.
Just maybe I would still side with basketball. I'm just looking right now, and this is kind of strange, and I don't know how you guys will take this, is I look at the 24/7 Sports composite top 100. The number one player in the country is from Texas, Quinn Ewers. Ewers, the quarterback, going to Ohio State. You got to scroll through. Now, they've got what they call the crystal ball, which is people making predictions as to where a kid will go, which I guess is kind of the equivalent of that's his leader. You got to go all the way down to prospect number 14 before you find a kid that Alabama is a leader for. I even as I scrolled, they've got, now again, it's all relevant because we're still talking elite prospects. They've got their best recruit right now is the number 22 player overall. I realize they're not hurting, so I'm not trying to make it sound.
Yeah,
like
I mean, they just
hurting.
pulled the greatest recruiting class of all time, so I don't think the fact that they don't have.
And the other argument is the other one just basically graduated, right?
Yeah,
went on to the NFL.
Which one? What are you talking about? The greatest recruit, or
the 2017
6 guys
class?
Got drafted in the first round.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and now I just say this as I look at the current recruiting class that'll be seniors for basketball. I don't see Duke with a commitment right now in the top 40. Although, and Patrick, I think you make a good point. I think college basketball, because as I look at it, you've already got the top two players, according, again, 24/7 Sports, Imani Bates, who was initially committed to Michigan State, and Jalen Durham, a 6'10" center. Both are likely heading straight to the G League. They haven't announced that. And then the number 6 player overall is potentially heading to the G League. So I do agree with you that I think maybe the scope of your recruiting is escalating quicker and quicker. Now, it should be noted, Mike Krzyzewski turned 74 back on February 13th. Nick Saban will turn 70 on Halloween night this year. A little bit of an age difference. I don't think Saban gets past 74, guys. I think that would be his last year. So Krzyzewski will coach up to 75. Obviously, next February he'll still be coaching, and he'll flip over to 75. Saban will be 70 and would turn 75 during the season, much like Krzyzewski does. I think that's about the age. I could see Saban stepping away at 74, 75, which would put him on pace for 4 to 5 more years.
It's certainly worth pointing out that Steve Spurrier at South Carolina, the only SEC head football coach to coach into his 70s, did it when he was 70, that final season that he didn't make it all the way through. I think the Nick Saban situation is unique for sure. And yeah, I would put it about the same scope, Bill. 4 years from now, 4 to 5 years from now, that seems about right. But I mean, if Alabama's still rolling at that point, I wouldn't be shocked. Nick Saban keeps on going. Just how we've seen Paterno and Bowden coach for so long and keep their programs at a high level for most of that time, them have the success that Nick Saban had.
I read a book
just rolling.
once. I read a book once, maybe twice. But I did read, actually I read it on my phone, for those wondering. I used to get the books on my phone. or iPad, but it was Mike Krzyzewski's book, and it was really good. It was more on life than it was on basketball. But I just say that because I saw in that book he talked about family and his daughters and just some certain things that were that way. I'm just seeing if I can find it real quick. Here it is, Beyond Basketball: Coach K's Key Words for Success. It was a book I read a while back, and it seemed like if you talk about these two guys, and they're interesting, right? I mean, these are. I would say Krzyzewski's the coach in college basketball. Nick Saban's the guy in college football. Both are up there in age, have grandkids. Whose personal life do you think we know more about? Like, I lean Krzyzewski, but that's because I read a book on him. Nick Saban, I feel like, has started to open up a little bit more. He told the story a few weeks ago that we thought was really funny. I think we couldn't play it on air because there was a word that could not be used. But he told the story about dating his wife and going back to her high school reunion and running into her boyfriend from high school.
Also saw where Nick Saban stole that story from somebody else and just.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I mean that's 2021. You're probably going to see that about almost every story.
Wow, I didn't see that. So I don't know, because I just say, like, to me, it seems like Krzyzewski has more of a life outside of his sport, whereas I don't know what Nick Saban would do, right? Like, he's not really a golfer like Spurrier was. You can only drive your boat on the lake for so many months. I mean, is he going to sit around eating oatmeal cream pies 24 hours a day? And that would be my other point to how long Saban continues to go.
Yeah, I don't see Mike Krzyzewski with a smooth transition into retirement either, man. When you're at this high level for so long, it is such a way of life. I think what history has shown is that it's difficult for almost anyone going from their professional life to retirement, but especially these high level coaches. Craig P on the Facebook live stream. Speaking of money, Coach K will now save on hair dye.
Yeah.
That would be fun if he what is it? So he's at 22. If all of a sudden he comes on camera in 2023, a year after, and he's just gray and he's got the Greg Popovich look and maybe a little bit of a beard going.
Okay,
every day.
That would be good stuff. 803-404-6100 if you'd like to weigh in. You can call or text the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Love Chevy phone lines up and rolling on that Facebook and YouTube live stream, as well as Twitter, the station handle at 107.5 The Game. It's the early game here on 107.5.
Home of the Gamecocks and new head coach. Advancing this program and making it better. 107.5.
Big morning. Plenty to discuss. One of the things you might also be discussing with your significant other, or maybe your recent graduate, is a pre-owned vehicle, or maybe getting a new car. If you're thinking about doing that, you need to go visit Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. Whether it's new or pre-owned, you're going to find the largest selection of vehicles anywhere in the Midlands. That's what the great folks at Love Chevrolet offer you, is an incredible selection. Then once you get onto the lot, they're able to help you because they're so knowledgeable, so willing to work with you. Make sure you feel comfortable with your selection, or maybe, again, that graduate, whether it was high school or college, they're heading off to college, they're heading off to the real world. You want to make sure they've got a trustworthy, reliable car, truck, whatever, that they're going to feel comfortable driving around. The folks at Love Chevrolet are going to take care of you. So the largest selection, incredibly knowledgeable staff, 60 years of servicing families right here in the Midlands. That's how good Love Chevrolet is. Go find out for yourself. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, or on the web, lovechevy.com. Get out to Love Chevrolet and find new roads.
Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass.
Do you see the picture of John Shire as a kid with Mike Krzyzewski?
Yeah, what he wrote, the little note to him.
That's hilarious, man. You know what we can get Patrick on the whiteboard. What do you think, Patrick? Any ideas for the whiteboard?
No.
How about most exciting Gamecocks you've seen play?
Hold on. Your question, for some reason, I had a topic yesterday prior to a bunch of this. And it
Old
involved
guy
players,
moments.
and now I can't remember it. There was a lot going on yesterday. Craig, that's too easy for. See, Craig, that's too easy for Patrick. We need a thinker.
We're just pandering to him. No, we're trying to tailor it to today's show.
You do top 5 coaches regardless of sport?
Yeah, we can do that. But nothing is getting Patrick interested this morning. That's part of the challenge.
I think Patrick's worn out.
Hey, Jay crushed his spirit last week.
It's true.
No, that time slot did though.
What's that?
That time slot did for sure.
It's a different for sure.
No, just the time, the actual like physical time of the show, not the
Right in the middle of your day.
yeah.
Ooh, most hated college coaches.
Yeah, that's pretty good, Perry.
Yo,
I think that was what we said yesterday.
What do you mean? What we said yesterday?
That was like teased as a discussion for today, but then obviously Coach K, I think we said the coaches that you actually like when we were talking about Dan Mullen, because I said that.
Oh yeah,
I was
that's right.
him, but I actually hate him.
College coaches, right?
I think you can take that somewhere. Maybe the most despised college coaches of all time.
So one side of the board, most despised. Other side, most loved.
I need to like seriously think about that because I only can think of Coach K and Dabo.
That's the thing about the most despised, right? Depends how much ill will you have to them, or your whole brain just floods there. That's all you see.
Because there's no one that elicits like that emotion out of me, like that. I'm like, I hate this guy. I don't hate Saban at all. I like Saban. I get a kick out of him. And Dan Mullen's not like, I don't hate Dan Mullen. I just think he's a weirdo. And
right. I understand that. I think Urban Meyer is an easily hated coach up there.
Yeah. But you got to go outside the box. You got to go out. You got to go to other sports, like in the NBA. Think of all time. Like I feel like
right.
Patrick. I feel like Father. I feel like Perry would go. Well, y'all were Maryland fans, so would there be another one? I feel like that's why he's going to dislike Krzyzewski at the top.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Maryland has a football coach that brings strong.
No.
Nah.
Probably more of a lacrosse coach.
Roy Williams might be on that list for a lot of people.
Of which one? Hated?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I like the disliked or despised conversation more than liked.
Of course you would.
Says a lot about you.
Exactly. You're up.
Mike Krzyzewski announcing his impending retirement after the upcoming college basketball season. The headline news from yesterday, we talked about Jermaine Couisnard and Bryant coming back to Carolina basketball, making that official yesterday as well. So big day of college basketball for sure. Some necessary, some much needed good news from the player personnel standpoint from Gamecock basketball after a bunch of transfers after last year's 6-15 season. And then we also had the discussion yesterday because Dan Mullen recently getting a contract extension and raise at Florida, and those details coming out just the other day, how we were going to do. We were talking about what do we do the best coaches in college football yesterday is what you had on your whiteboard, right? Top 5 coaches. You put Dan Mullen in there. I disagreed with that. Top 10, yeah. And then a lot of people started sending in their own, and it turned to to me, it became much more coaches who they liked as opposed to the best. Guys who are, a guy like Mike Leach, for instance, is likable in a lot of ways, but it's hard to argue that he's one of the best coaches in college football, especially after what we saw at Mississippi State last year. So now, combined with the Coach K retirement, I think on the whiteboard, we were talking about it during the break on the live video stream. Most 5 likable coaches, guys you would want to coach your team, and then on the flip side of that, that's where you want to get in, Bill, huh? The least likable coaches.
I like the least, the most despised. Who are your 5 most despised coaches of all time? Send them in.
Our 2. All right, I'm going to get my list going here.
And Bill, we have that sleep number to cut this morning.
You want to go ahead and do that now?
Oh, Patrick's going right to the whiteboard.
Yeah, while they're doing their whiteboard stuff.
All right.
Kicking you guys off. Just 1. Numero uno. I'm going to start with most likable.
No, I have 2. I have K on there.
I know. All right, who are my guys? Oh, buddy, Ryan's a good one there, Jason. I think Rex Ryan is probably higher on that list for most people in the NFL. I love
Rex Ryan.
Yep. Oh, well, he's one of those polarizing guys. Trying to think which sports to start with or where to go specifically.
I mean, yeah, I just don't think I've ever hated any of the other NFC East coaches.
Really? Okay.
No.
Like Parcells was before your time with the Giants. He was an easy one to dislike growing up, a Redskins fan like I did.
I don't hate it. I love Andy Reid.
Okay, put him on your other list then, man.
Well, he's not. I don't think he's top 5, but he's certainly not hateable. Jason Garrett, so I never felt anything way about Jason Garrett.
Right.
Tom Coughlin's just an old man who I don't really have any feelings about him either way. I would have thought I hated more people, but I really don't. Let's see.
Jimmy Johnson, another good one, Jason.
There's also a strong distinction between coaches that I think are morons and coaches that I actually hate. Hugh Jackson is a moron, but I don't hate it.
Right. You kind of feel bad for him, right?
Almost. I mean, I feel bad. Or who did they just have? There for 1 year. Why did I forget his name? The Alabama guy who was the quarterback coach for the Browns and then coach for 1 year.
The Alabama guy.
He was the head coach of the Browns right before Kevin Stefanski. Why did I forget his name?
Because the Cleveland Browns very forgettable.
Freddie Kitchens,
Yeah.
he's an idiot, clearly, but.
Okay, I'm up to 5 total with liked and disliked. Loved and hated, if you will. Got 5 football guys, 1 basketball guy on my list so far.
I don't really know if I hate Rick Pitino. I don't think I hate him. I think he's a little weaselly. I think he's a lot weaselly, but
Jim, I'm guessing those are that's your disliked list, but with John Madden on there, that's the one that's throwing me. And if you're a Clemson fan, I guess it could be. Nah, if you're a Clemson fan, then Woody Hayes wouldn't be on your list. I wonder if Bill's going to make it back for the show. Oh boy, made it back. Intro's up. What is it that makes us like a coach? What is it? Should say love a coach. What is it that makes us love a coach? What is it that makes us hate a coach? I feel like the hate part is easy, Bill. They beat your team, and then they do something to add a little bit of extra, whether it's a comment, it's a mannerism, whatever it is. It just rubs you the wrong way, and they go on your list of hated coaches. We're bringing this up today because of Mike Krzyzewski's retirement yesterday. I think a polarizing guy in college basketball. If you're a Duke fan, you got him on your most loved coaches list. I think if you're not a Duke fan, which most people reside in that category, it's easy to put Mike Krzyzewski on the most hated list. I didn't put him on mine. To me, he's one of those. I'm probably a little biased too. I grew up going to a few Duke basketball camps. Not that I was a Duke basketball fan. It was about an hour away from where I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina, and respected the program. He's a guy that I don't like, but have a bunch of respect for, and I feel like it's kind of impossible not to with the numbers he's put up. So, Bill, in your mind, what makes you love a coach? What makes you hate a coach?
Well, I mean, the hate, the dislike, or despise. I don't want to use hate.
We're just talking sports terms here. We're not talking about their character and their person and the whole.
Yeah.
We have.
I'm going to stay there.
We talked about it. Okay, we are in a fortunate place to be in 2021 now. Gloves are off. People are back at stadiums. We're talking sports here. Okay, we're not talking about hurting everybody's feelings. And this is in the whole thing. Come
What
on.
makes you
This is
despise
sports
a coach?
discussion. Sports discussion.
I think with the despise part, I think it's the actions, the attitude, the arrogance. Because we said all the time, like a couple of you guys, a couple of people in the live stream, a couple of places has hit us up, and Bobby Knight's been brought up.
Mm-hmm. So a good list: Greg, Dabo Swinney, Bobby Knight, John Calipari, Bill Belichick, Lane Kiffin. That's a strong top five.
By the way, I'm a little surprised we're getting as many Lane Kiffins as we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
But let me ask this: if Steve Spurrier doesn't coach, knowing our audience, if Steve Spurrier doesn't coach at South Carolina,
mm-hmm.
how many lists? And he may still make a couple lists because of the way he left. But how many people would put Steve Spurrier on that list because of his arrogance?
Well, you could throw Lou Holtz on there as well because of the way he left program. South Carolina kind of being the exception. Obviously, the Carolina Clemson fight happened, and but not major issues. I know there were some issues at the end of his tenure as well. But you're right. It's all about your perspective, right, and where you're coming from. That's why I'm interested in getting these lists. And if you have some reasons, feel free to throw those out there. Chris says, I bet if you ask Georgia fans, they still hate Spurrier. And where he got to kind of in those glory years was a classic Steve Spurrier, right? Most coaches hadn't won enough at South Carolina to be hated by other programs, he said. So it's kind of reverse respect in a lot of ways. It is a big, because Patrick, you got it on your whiteboard right now. You have a name on there on your most hated list that I have on most liked list. 4 names you got up right now. You want to tell everybody on your whiteboard?
Well, mine is mostly because these are the guys that I consider like kind of phony or two-faced or like trying too hard. So, I mean, I have Dabo. Obviously, we've been over all of these things a million times. Little old Clemson, when you're the number 1 team in the country. Nobody ever believed in us when everyone picked you to win the national championship. Enough of it. Coach K, because he is so sensitive and everything always has to be about him. Whenever they lose a game, he's got to yell at the student section for booing the other coach. He's got to go into the other team's locker room and tell them why it's such an honor that they were able to beat Coach K. He's got to say, oh, I wasn't feeling well tonight, so that's why we lost. And it's just ridiculous. It's always about K. Urban Meyer, because he basically is just not a good person and had run like the most. There was just so many bad things. We don't even need to get into it. I can't remember that coach's name that was with Bowling Green, but that and all the drama at Florida that was covered up by him coaching Tim Tebow, and just bad guy. And then Pete Carroll, because I think Pete Carroll's such a phony. Like the way he left Southern Cal was terrible. I think he is just such a I don't know. I guess he's charismatic because he makes his players. He's like a players coach, quote unquote players coach, and he's just such a phony guy. I don't buy anything that comes out of his mouth ever.
See, he's the guy that's on your list that I have on my likable list. I like Pete Carroll. I was thinking one of the reasons why I put on the hated list guys that don't they're enjoying their job or enjoying the sport and take it way too seriously or just can't show positive emotion. Pete Carroll is the rare football guy I like to see out there smiling. And I think on the sideline, it is absolutely genuine. And then he does some things outside the box. I hear what you're saying, though, Patrick. I get why he's on your list. And there have been some issues in his past. But to me, I'm a guy, I'd like to believe the positive things that I hear about Pete Carroll. And then I just I can enjoy football more when I see other people enjoying it, and Pete Carroll's one of those guys.
Well, I was thinking, and the likable part. I think the personality part, and just as Patrick was saying that, I think maybe getting to know certain coaches on a personal level. Like I was thinking of Chris Peterson, the former Washington coach that just retired, and knowing a little bit about his backstory might put him on your more your liked list. As opposed to not knowing, like we didn't know much about Lane Kiffin. It's funny to me to see Lane Kiffin showing up on so many lists, given that he's so far removed from the pumping gas comment to Alshon Jeffrey and his time at Tennessee.
Yeah, but the throwing of the play calling sheet, that did happen last season.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people actually liked that because him doing that to Will Muschamp, it was kind of like, see, this guy's making fun of you. We got to get rid of Muschamp because now he's being made fun. Thank you, Lane Kiffin, for throwing your play sheet like that because, maybe in a roundabout way, people were okay with that. But I understand what you're saying there. I don't know. It's interesting with Kiffin. I guess Mike Leach would be on a lot of people's most liked list because he's quirky and entertaining and I don't know, all kinds of weird things to say about him. But yeah, you kind of go down the list. It's interesting when you compare the personalities of coaches and go into the NBA. Think about some of the guys in the NBA that you get to know, like Greg Popovich, who's been around for a long time. Again, one of the guys that I think would have been on the more liked list is Brad Stevens because of his background. So, Quinn Snyder, a guy we brought up with the Duke connection, now with the Utah Jazz, when he was cheating all over college basketball, I'm not sure people would have really. I think people would have had him on the despised list.
Yeah, so those names popping up more frequently on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line and the live chat right now on the Facebook, YouTube Live, and Twitter as well. So I mentioned Craig's list of Dabo Sweeney, Bobby Knight, John Calipari, Bill Belichick, and Lane Kiffin. That's a pretty strong list, and I think those are going to be some popular names. Jim hits us up with Lou Holtz. I don't know. Is that supposed to be a Beamer? Bemmer? Interesting. That's Roy Williams, Dean Smith, Nick Saban. See, the interesting part is that some of these lists, I'm not sure if you're going most liked or most hated.
I think Jim's list. I think the second list, because if you go back up on the live stream, I think his dislike list was Danny Ford, Woody Hayes, John Madden, Dabo Sweeney, and Brad Scott, and then he followed that up. I think one of y'all might have said something because he just followed up, yes, Steeler fan. So I took it. That's why he had John Madden was on the list, and so I think we're having to decipher a little bit this morning. We're having to do a little bit of deciphering in text messages and
so that makes sense that Frank Beamer would be on his most liked list. The other ones, I think, Roy Williams and Lou Holtz anyway, I would have guessed would go on the more hated list than loved. Dean Smith, I think, I get that one, and the Nick Saban one really threw me off there, Jim. But that's
maybe
list.
Maybe he's just carrying it over. He couldn't stop. We got him so worked up this morning. He's just going through a list of coaches he doesn't like.
I find the don't like one much easier to at least think about because if you don't like somebody, you don't like somebody. But then when I'm thinking of the most likable, I'm also thinking like I enjoy Mike Leach. I think he's entertaining. But would I want to have a beer with him? No, I really don't feel like listening to him speak. Like I'd rather just watch it on a Twitter video or watch him retweet memes and things like that. I find that funny, but I don't know that means like I would want to hang out with him. Like I would love to hang out with Cliff Kingsbury for a night because I think he's super cool and I think we'd get along great. But does that mean he's one of the most likable? I don't think so. I wouldn't put Cliff Kingsbury on the most likable list. But I would love to hang out at a pub.
Let's turn the whiteboard over. Let's start a whole new topic. Turn the whiteboard over. The 5 athletes or coaches that you think would personally like you the most. As soon as they met you, I don't mean you meet them. The 5 that you think would enjoy your company, because the way you worded that was, Cliff Kingsbury would meet me and he'd instantly want to be my best friend, not you want to be his.
No, that's what I would want. I think he's the man.
Right, but I'm saying we'd instantly be friends.
I think he'd like me though. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Who's the 4 other athletes or coaches that you think instantly meet you and are like, yeah, that Big Carrot's a good guy?
I'm just gonna pick like the 5 biggest bro coaches. That's what I'm gonna do.
Beautiful. Let's do it. Let's hear it.
Right.
Because
doesn't that mean Vrabel's got to be on your list? The Tennessee.
Yeah, no, Vrabel. I was putting things in my notes app, and Vrabel is actually on that list already. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, you called that one, Bill. So, who you got on your list, Bill? Have you written it down? Have you written down 5 names? I've written down 5 names on likable. I'm up to 4 on my dislike list. Patrick, you've got Urban Meyer on your list. I stole him from you. You do not have Nick Saban on there. I put him on my list just from an enjoyment of your job and creating an environment where people have fun in sports. And Nick Saban is the opposite of that. He's the anti. He just sucks all that out and do your job and the whole thing, grind it out.
His two offensive coaches right now, I could really go. I think Bill O'Brien is very unlikable.
Right, agreed.
I don't know if he's top 5 most unlikable, but I find him very unlikable. But Doug Marrone, super likable. Doug Marrone is the quarterback's coach, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Doug Marrone is like borderline most likable. He's very funny guy.
Why did Marrone pop in your head? I feel like
I was just thinking of the Alabama coaching staff. We were talking about it earlier, how he's got that thing rolling, and I remembered that both of those guys were on staff because I was thinking, yeah, Nick Saban doesn't have to do anything on offense. He's got 2 former NFL coaches running his offense. Bill O'Brien though might make my top 5 most unlikable.
Oh, David, I'm stealing your dislike list. He just wrote in 4 letters, and I don't think he spelled it correctly. Maybe he did. I don't know. I don't know how Gino Auriemma spells his first name with I thought it was with an I. He put G.
Yeah.
Gino Auriemma is on.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Guy that is just difficult to like.
Yeah.
Just for that same like grinded out, holier than thou kind of a way that he comes out off. Yeah. Jen's. So that I got my list, and I went some older football coaches on there as Jerry Glanville popped up. You guys remember? That's probably way before this time. But just as he tried to have that like rebel whole personality or image, and I just never quite bought it. And then just seemed just shady to me. And then Barry Switzer for not maybe his time in Oklahoma, but just those Cowboys years where I felt like he was Jerry Jones's puppet and wanted credit for any success, but no blame for any kind of lack of success. That's my top 5 list of most disliked coaches: Nick Saban, Jerry Glanville, Barry Switzer, Urban Meyer, and then Gino Auriemma. Travis just put us up with his on the Facebook live stream. He's got Jimmy Johnson, the old NFL coach, as well on there. Tony La Russa, that's a good one, added here recently. And Jim Donovan as his 3 most hated list. On his most liked list, he's got Don Shula, good one. Greg Popovich, a little surprising. Joe Madden is an easy one to have on that list from the baseball perspective as well. Love to hear your list as well. Craig just says Dana Holgerson because of his terrible lettuce. A guy's hair? You're holding a guy's hair against him from a coaching perspective? Yeah, and then Jason said, didn't Glanville always leave seats for Elvis? That thing I didn't. And
that left what, 2
weird.
tickets or 1 ticket?
Right. Well, what do you do? I understood that. 803-404-6100, the number into the program. You can call or text. Love to hear some of your coaches on this list. We will not consume the entire show with that. Obviously, the news from Gamecock basketball with Keyshawn Bryant, Jermaine Couisnard returning, Coach K retirement. How do you think of Coach K? I think does color a lot of this conversation. You could have him on either list, just depending on your perspective for sure. You're listening to the early game. It's 107.5 game.
I myself feeling pretty, well, I do feel pretty, but I feel pretty good because I got a great night of sleep with that sleep number setting on 45 last night. Woke up rested, refreshed, ready to go today because a great night of sleep, well, can put you in a positive mental state. So you need a great night of sleep. So make the switch today. Check out what Sleep Number has got going on. You can discover proven quality sleep during the Memorial Day sale. That's right, still going on. Save $1,000 on the Sleep Number 360 Special Edition Smart Bed. Exclusive offers also available for military members only at a Sleep Number store. And there's 2 to choose from. One in Irma on Harbison Boulevard, the other in Columbia, 2 Notch Road across from Sand Hills Mall. You can visit them on the web, sleepnumber.com. Again, discover proven quality sleep during the Memorial Day sale. Still going on. You haven't missed it just yet. You can save $1,000 on the Sleep Number 360 Special Edition Smart Bed with exclusive offers also available for military members. Make the switch to Sleep Number today and find out what a great night of sleep is truly like.
Yeah, Mark. Glad Patrick is. That was pre-Patrick, right? That was before your time, Patrick. Was that when right when you were becoming a Redskins fan?
No, I remember Spurrier being there.
Was that 08, 09, 07, 08? No, way before then. Sorry. Spurrier came to Carolina in 4, right? So that would be 1 and 2. And I think he took 3 off.
Yeah, it was 2002.
See, Tuberville, really interesting.
I got to work on my likable list.
Bo Fisher, thank you for that one. Gamecock Will just hit us up with Dabo, Danny Ford, Dabo, Danny Ford, Dabo. Bobby Petrino, he was more relevant. A few years ago, would make a lot of lists, I think. Texter hit us up with that one.
All right, I'm really trying to come up with names that have not been mentioned.
Attaboy. Keep it original.
I've got 3 of them that I feel like are certainties that when I say them, a lot of people are going to go, oh, yeah. Oh, I really dislike that guy.
I got 4 on my likable list that haven't been mentioned. David Bennett, great one. Cats and dogs.
Oh, I got another good one.
Those have got to be disliked guys, right? Heim and Calhoun. Calhoun wasn't. I thought he was a relatively likable dude. Patrick, you going to go for number 5 there? You're going to stick with 4?
Gino Ariema was such a good one, but I don't want to just write that down now. But he's exactly what I hate.
Maybe non-high school coaches there, David.
I'm also struggling to think of a coach that I would want to party with besides all of the young NFL coaches right now.
Les, I think because Harbaugh's been getting whipped, he's not on the list. Or
right. Travis going women's basketball strong there with Kim Mulkey.
Yeah.
Attaboy,
do people
David.
hate Jim Harbaugh that much, or he's just kind of like a character?
Well, I think Michigan fans might be on the side of not liking him very much. Yeah,
that makes sense.
On my top 5. Bobby Cox made the list.
I don't think I like Tom Izzo very much.
Izzo. See, but he kind of makes fun of himself, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't think he's worthy of being in the top 5, but I'm definitely not a fan of him.
Jason, I hear you about John Thompson. I think you talk about reading people's books, Bill. I think he's got a relatively recent book, or a book that I've seen people read recently that a lot of people really like. Former Georgetown coach. Never heard of that name before in my life. You guys heard of that name that David just popped up?
No.
Heard of Herman Boone from Remember the Titans.
Oh, I got a contract. Again, I'm trying to come up with. All right, I'll admit on the live stream, some of these are not the most, they would not make my most dislike, but I've tried to come up with different names that have been thrown out there to get a reaction. And I've got a name that's been mentioned on my unlikable list that might draw a reaction. And then I've got at least 3 names, probably 4 that I think will get strong reactions on the unlikable list. And I've got 1 name on the likable list that I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me on.
Well, luckily we're headed back in, so
Oh, this is going to be good.
Patrick has no interest in listening to what you have to say.
Device is not connected, it says. That's another one on my list. David, you're reading my mind, man.
Oh, yeah, good call. You guys are up.
I feel like I've been seeing the internal thought process as it's happening on the live video stream, Facebook, YouTube Live, also up on Twitter, sponsored by Buford Lending. You can watch us each and every morning. If you're not watching, now you can hear some of the names that Bill has come up with. You haven't given us the names. I've just seen this guy's controversial. This guy. And you're going to preface this by saying your list not necessarily your top 5, but your most unique ones, or some guys you feel like should be in consideration now. On when we're talking about coaches, most liked, loved, and hated coaches out there. This coming off the news yesterday of Coach K deciding to make next season his last, and Duke going to be turning it over to John Shire, the former Duke player and now assistant coach there under Mike Jessica.
So I got 5. Gino Orium, he's just like, he got mentioned. He would have been on the list. That was a good one that I didn't think of. And he is smug, arrogant, just seems like just a lot of names I'd want to call him. But I'll give you the 5 since he was listened. He was listed already. All right. In no particular order, not 1 through 5, but here's just as I was writing them down. Unlikable. Mike Leach. I don't like Mike Leach, man. Too smart for his own good. Just not a guy that I think, I think he just is always trying to prove how smart he is. Don't like him. Unlikable. Now, let's get to the 4 that I think as soon as I say it, a lot of people are going to go, yeah, that guy. Don't like him. Don't like him at all. First guy had some personal interaction with and had to, at the end of his tenure.
So he doesn't like you.
Getting personal.
Well, at the end of his tenure, when he needed fans and he needed support, he decided to be buddy-buddy with me. But early on, he was pretty condescending, not just to me, but
can I guess who this is?
Go ahead.
Darren Horn?
That's right. They're pretty unlikable. He was pretty condescending for about 3 years, and then at one point I think he came around and was like, I might need to get some support here. So he would try to buddy up to me. But Darren Horn on that list. Number 2, or number 3, I guess, has already got Mike Leach. College baseball coach. South Carolina fans. Actually, I'll go ahead and tell you. Well, because it's funny. I just realized the next 3 guys are all college baseball coaches. And funny thing is, they're all connected.
Okay.
I realized the next name I was going to get is connected to the other 2 guys. They were all on the same staff.
Count me out of the guessing game for this one.
I thought you were going Jack Leggett. Yes.
He's on there. I just realized, and these are his 2 assistants who are now head coaches elsewhere.
Kevin O'Sullivan.
Uh-huh.
And his other assistant, that's a head coach somewhere. Be up with a school.
I can if I tell you, it's one of the top seeds in the NCAA tournament.
It's not Arkansas.
No.
What other? Oh, Tim Corbin? Really?
Tim Corbin.
Unlikable?
I don't like that guy. I don't like that guy. Kevin O'Sullivan, Jack Leggett, and Tim Corbin. For some reason, it didn't dawn on me that all three were on the same staff. But yeah, Tim Corbin. I've never liked that guy at Vanderbilt. Just again, but yeah, you got to have Kevin O'Sullivan on that list, right?
Why?
He just seems very unlike. I mean, Jack Leggett's definitely got to be on the list. I'm not sure Jack Leggett isn't ahead of Dabo Sweeney or Danny Ford. I feel like Jack Leggett would be target number one. I know South Carolina beat them continuously, but just the accusing South Carolina of heating the bats, of all the things, I would think Jack Leggett would be up there. Kevin O'Sullivan, I remember him doing the Gator chomp, and I don't think he's a guy that South Carolina fans like. And then Tim Corbin, also, really? Justin says he's one of the most likable college baseball coaches?
Yeah, just read an article.
I've never gotten that.
It's Sports Illustrated about Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker, and it's about how Corbin tries to develop the whole person, and they go outside the box and the whole deal. Where did this weird college baseball
I don't
get on your list? You're the guy who talks about college baseball least on the show, and then you just threw guys on there.
Well, Jack Leggett was. Well, I told you I was trying to go outside the box here a little bit. I was trying to go outside the box a little bit. And Jack Leggett and Kevin O'Sullivan came up there, and then I don't know. I've never got me personally. I'm not saying maybe some of y'all you've had better. You've seen stuff. I just never have seen Tim Corbin as a guy that I liked. Maybe it was just maybe I've always just seen the ultra competitive side at Vanderbilt. But yeah, that's and then Mike Leach again and Gino Auriemma. Likeable list, real quick. I had Spurrier on there. I do like Spurrier. I had Spurrier on there, but Eric Spoelstra, Miami Heat head coach, seems like an incredibly likable guy. Big fan.
1,000 guesses. I never would have thought anybody.
Well, I told you I'm trying to go outside the box. I put Spurrier on there. Bobby Bowden. I put Bobby Bowden on there. Just seems.
Yeah, I thought about doing that.
Bobby Bowden.
You got Spurrier and Bowden on the same list.
Two different, but I like both of them.
They were rivals back in the day.
I guess this is a little bit of personal bias because I hung out with him at some AAU tournaments and talked basketball with him. And again, I'm kind of taking the page out of Patrick's book with the I knew we'd meet and just be friends. But Tony Bennett. I always enjoyed my conversations with Tony Bennett. I was a big Tony Bennett, and he's very likable. Again, another guy that I really like, a basketball coach, Mike Young, up at Virginia Tech, was at Wofford for a long time. I had Joe Madden on the list. Yep. And then my controversial one here that I think people are going to be like, really? And I've never actually had personal interaction with this college basketball coach, but I like him. I think he's got a really fun personality. You want to take a guess? Head coach in the SEC?
It's got. What was the guess?
I do like Frank. I like Frank.
Martin,
I've had a lot of great personal interaction with Frank. I love Frank. Nope. You're
Musselman?
Close. You were very close on Nate Oates.
It's not Musselman?
Nope.
They're in Arkansas. I'm close with Nate Oates in Alabama, so it's Bruce Pearl.
Yeah. He looks like a fun guy. He looks like that's another guy that I could just see myself, being friends with right off the bat. Just seems like a fun guy. I don't care what he's doing to get basketball recruits. It's none of my business. I like the guy. I'm a Bruce Pearl fan. Sign me up.
So sweats through his jackets on a nightly basis.
And he makes fun of himself.
Does he?
Meet him and Patrick Reed. That would be a fun three.
That'd be quite the threesome there. Mac co-signed on your college baseball coaches, by the way. See, he's the one guy giving you support on the Jack Leggett, Kevin O'Sullivan, Tim Corbin bend you went on there. Patrick has added a final name. You heard him now. I'm guessing you heard this from someone else on the list, and this is coming from recency.
Just when Bill started naming baseball coaches, I was like, are there any baseball coaches I hated? And then I just remembered how much of a jerk Tony La Russa was last week. So yeah, I just put him on there.
Yeah, see, I don't have baseball guys on my dislike list. I think they're much easier to like from a coaching standpoint just because the game's intensity is different. You kind of got to be laid back, more even keel if you're a baseball manager, especially in the big leagues. Even in college, I feel like you have to have some level of acceptance of, it's hard to get a huge ego, I feel like, in college baseball. And that's why I was surprised you went down the path you did, Bill, but definitely outside the box. I'll give you that. From the likable standpoint in baseball, Bobby Cox, I think, is the easy one. Ryan Snitker, Lane just hit us up with, is easy to like, and absolutely. I mean, his story, grinding through the minors for decades and now making it to the big leagues, and the way he handles, I think, things is easy to like the current Braves man. A couple other names I got on my likable list, and I feel like I'm going like back in the vault. I was thinking about putting one of the most quoted, I feel like, coaches out there, but I know in his time, and I didn't live through his time, so that's why I didn't put it on there. He was very much a bit of a lightning rod, not him necessarily, but his program, and John Wooden. I haven't seen his name out there, but I feel like he's always quoted and kind of held up in high regard. But then when you hear Bobby Knight talk about his booster who's kind of running the show and basically making it unfair in college basketball, that's why I didn't put John Wooden on my list. I did put Phil Jackson from the basketball perspective. The way that he was able to manage the Michael Jordan era and put his approach out there as kind of really different at the time. Like, hey, man, it's all about being zen and figuring things out and more than basketball. So I put Phil Jackson on the list. And I guess that's where I get to where you guys are, where Patrick was talking about, I feel like he'd be my friend and we could hang out. That's kind of how I feel with Phil Jackson. Like, yeah, man, let's just take it easy here and have a conversation, have a deep conversation.
I can't see you and Phil Jackson seem like two guys who don't need cell phones, and that's the thing that
exactly.
No
just
cell
hang out in
phones.
Montana,
at
the lake with a mountain view. Like, don't worry about anybody else. Just hang out. Tony Dungy is another one. I think that name came up from David on the live stream. Another guy that's just. You hardly hear a bad word about Tony Dungy, and that's difficult to do when you have achieved as much as he achieved in football, particularly. One of those rare guys in football, I feel like, who doesn't necessarily show a lot of intensity, but gets guys to play hard and play for him. That's why I have Tony Dungy on the list. Pete Carroll, I mentioned before, is on my list from the football standpoint as well. And then I got Bobby Cox, like David also mentioned, from the baseball perspective. And then I think this is probably the most controversial one, and another one that I probably should have left off the list because it wasn't really my time, but I threw Jim Valvano on my list of likable coaches from the inspirational standpoint, obviously, from the underdog standpoint. Actually knew someone who covered him personally that would have had him on the unlikable list, and he certainly didn't come without his controversy at the time with some recruiting stuff and the whole deal. But especially that the classic speech at the ESPYs and the whole thing, I got Valvano on my list going old school college basketball. Who you got? Most lovable and most hateable coaches through the years. Mike Krzyzewski. I'm surprised that we haven't heard more of him on the dislike list. Maybe it's because when you announce your retirement, you get a lot of love and the whole thing. Somebody hit us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air Tech about a passage, I guess, from Mike Krzyzewski talking about how he adjusted to the one and dones and the whole thing. You got to give him a ton of credit. And I think that's the thing with coaches on either one of these lists. Very few unsuccessful coaches make either one of these lists, right? It's hard to hate a guy that your team whips all the time. And it's also hard to like a coach that doesn't win very much either, because I think that goes hand in hand with these things. I think what we would probably all kind of begrudgingly admit is that we have a bunch of respect for all 10 of these names if you did top 5 on like and dislike, because you can't dislike a guy that much if he's not that successful. Most of the time, that's why you dislike him.
What about, especially for South Carolina fans, because of what he said after the bowl game, Bo Pelini? See, I can see Bo Pelini on the unlikable list, but I kind of liked him because remember there was that fake Pelini Twitter account, might still be out there.
Hopefully,
but
yeah.
I think it was him and his cat, or the cat, and then he brought when he was the coach at Nebraska, he brought the cat out to the spring game and like held up the cat before they came onto the field. That's good enough for me to swing him to the likable list, even though. But I can see where Bo Pelini. I'm surprised we hadn't seen John Gruden on either list.
We have gotten that mentioned on the Cool Care Heating, I think, from an anonymous texter. Another one that I was thinking about putting on my likable list was Herm Edwards. Craig just mentioned that one on the the Facebook live stream. Herm's a little too much for me, is why I didn't put it on.
I'm
there.
with you on that. Yeah,
That's why I didn't put Mike Leach on there as well. I love Mike Leach, kind of small doses from far away. Can take about a minute and a half of a rant, but I don't want an hour-long press conference that came along with it. I don't want like the first game against LSU last year, fantastic from the Mississippi State standpoint. The whole season, brutal. If you can cherry pick some of these guys' moments, it's a lot easier to like. But if you have to kind of deal with them in their entirety, it's a different deal.
You mentioned the beat writers. That
Right.
was like
Too much. Trying to go through those quotes.
yeah.
Ugh,
As soon as they
way
heard he
too
was
much.
coming to town. No.
It's also
There's a lot of,
kind
there's some guys that just need to be more successful. Like I feel like I don't know enough about him, but I just feel in my heart that I love Sam Pittman, and I don't know why, but I just feel like I love that guguy. Just from the
He's
limited
honest.
amount that I've heard and seen from him, I think I love him.
it's kind of like Tim. How long did Robbie Caldwell get to coach at Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I was gonna go out. Now he would have been my outside box pick there. The one interim year at Vanderbilt where he goes to one SEC media days and talks about inseminating turkeys, and that was his job today, chickens, whatever it was. And it is the most old school, like removed room maybe in the world when you go to the SEC media days, and then you get after his whatever it was 30-minute session that was kind of like stand-up comedy. Everybody had to clap. Everybody in their room was just clapping for Robbie Caldwell. But again, as far as coaches go, like he was made to be an assistant coach. That's his deal. It didn't work out. So I couldn't quite put him on my list. I hear where you're going with from the likable standpoint. Yeah, and I see why you would equate him to Sam Pittman as an offensive line guy and the whole deal. Like Matt Luke at Ole Miss, likable dude, right? Just didn't win.
Offensive line guys are always great, and I just know like Sam Pittman. Sam Pittman was the one that was cleaning up somebody's finger, right?
Yeah, he was at Georgia. The offensive lineman. It was Cade Mays, I believe.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was it.
Handing out cheeseburgers to students outside of a basketball game the other week. It's like, what a good guy.
Got one of the strangest lists ever on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. It includes Carolina and Clemson coaches, and it's almost like all of them. Any kind of list where like Ray Tanner and Jack Leggett are beside each other. Rick Barnes, Oliver Purnell, Eddie Fogler, and Dave Odom, Cliff Ellis, all on the likable side. The don't like was Coach K, Gino Ariema, Pat Summit, and Barry Switzer. And think they like me was Mike Leach from this anonymous texter that also included Joe Morrison and Danny Ford, Steve Spurrier, and Davos Selena all on his liked list. I think he might have just been there. He's just naming all the coaches that have ever coached in Clemson or South Carolina. Anyway, it's all part of the fun of the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100. And Alan, trying to keep me straight, says, I distinctly remember Tim saying this topic would not dominate the show. We'll mention other things as well.
Yeah, let's just all tee off on Coach K for the last hour.
So, Bill, what about you? Are you a Coach K not on you would put him more on the dislike list than on the list? Because I've never heard you really speak strongly one way or the other about Mike Krzyzewski, I feel like.
That's another personal. I had a personal interaction with him that sways my
vote
toward. No, that was the referee. That was Jamie Lucky telling the story about Krzyzewski. I read Krzyzewski's book, and at an AAU tournament, I went up to him, and he was standing kind of in the corner. He had two of his assistants around him, but he was kind of standoffish. But a game ended, and I walked across the court, and this is back when shaking hands was normal, and shook his hand and talked. I thought I'd just go say, "Hey, man, I enjoyed the book. Appreciate it." He ended up engaging me in conversation for like 10 minutes and just talking about some kind of life stuff. Nothing important, nothing like earth shattering. We didn't talk. He didn't. Obviously, I was working for 24/7 Sports and a scout. He didn't need my help identifying, prospects. But he talked to me, and so that kind of, unlike the time I was in North Augusta at Peach Jam and was looking at the board, took a step backwards and stepped on Roy Williams' foot, and I thought he was going to freak out and smack me over the head with his little rolled up booklet of players. Or, I guess, because I'll be honest, if I hadn't had that interaction with Krzyzewski, just based on what I've seen and on the sidelines and stuff, I'd probably be like, no, I don't like that. This guy's pretty unlikable. But again, because of a personal interaction, I probably sway more toward him being.
Thankfully, some at the AAU tournament and didn't ask him why his team lost the game, and he would spend 10 minutes lecturing you on, why everything that you could do better in life and why you shouldn't be asking that question. Let's focus on what's more important. And I wasn't feeling good this afternoon, so that's why we lost anyway. He's just the worst. So unlikable.
Maryland fan. Patrick Barrett, ladies and
Maryland
gentlemen.
fan, yeah.
I don't even think it's a Maryland fan thing. I think it's just a non-Coach K fit. I think it's just a non.
I think, yeah. Again, I'm
No,
Patrick. If I hadn't had that personal interaction with Krzyzewski, and again, it was one time. It was 10 minutes. It was in the gym at Riverview Park down in North Augusta. It's not like we went to dinner or hung out after. It's not like I ever.
But I thought you were going to go the total opposite way with your story there. I thought you were going to say he brushed me off and he didn't even act like I was a human being. I was surprised. That was surprising.
I mean, that was a lot of because of the proximity you could get to the basketball coaches. Like I was talking about, there's a lot of those guys that I know about that just because of personal interaction. I know he's despised. I know he's absolutely despised. Now that I think about it, I am just shocked he has not showed up on, or to my knowledge, has not showed up on a single list. I used to be, and I've still got his cell phone number, and occasionally we text back and forth. But I used to be really good friends with Will Wade when he was an assistant, when he was looking for recruits, when he was trying to break into business at Clemson, when he was up at VCU, even when he was head coach at VCU. Me and him, he was one of the guys. There's a bunch of young coaches, Bob Ritchie at Furman, Mike Morrell, a bunch of young guys out there that have now gone on to become head coaches. But I was good friends with Will, and but I doubt he would make anybody's outside of LSU's likable list.
Much more likely to get on the other side, but has to win more first, I think, in a lot of ways. 803-404-6100, the number into the show. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
It's a new year. They're hungry, they're driven, and new. I want guys that want to be here, not just going out there to hire some guy with a famous last name.
Again, one I would have bet went the other way. Good for you, Travis. And Chip Kelly's got to go on the unlikable side, right? Like watching his offenses.
Another personal interaction. I didn't have a good personal interaction with Tim Tebow. We can tell that story as well. He would go on my not likable list strictly because of personal interaction. Two guys that are on my likable list because of personal interaction. Saw him yesterday. Jacob Crowder, Brian Kovar, the mortgage guru team there at First Palmetto Bank. I tell you what, I was talking to Brian yesterday. He was telling me a story about how they really helped a friend of theirs not only save money refinancing, but being able to get money back and pay off credit cards, get out of debt, all because of low interest rates right now. It's a great time to look at your mortgage statement and then give the boys at First Palmetto Bank a phone call. Jacob Crowder, Brian Kovar, 803-719-1005. That's how you can do it. You can also email Jacob, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER at firstpalmetto.com is the way to do that. They will probably be able to help improve your life. Don't believe me? Give Jacob Crowder a call this morning. Talk to him about refinancing, maybe even purchasing a brand new home. See what the interest rates are. 803-719-1005. That's his cell phone. You can text him. You can get in touch with him that way and check out what those guys can do for you. 803-719-1005. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder, with First Palmetto Bank. Okay. Crap.
So still catching up on the sleep from last week, Patrick?
No, I'll never catch up on sleep. I got a good amount this weekend.
How was the friends trip to Charleston?
It looked very entertaining.
What from
I would not
social?
have been able to afford it though. Just looking at what they did.
What a way of thinking. I'd always hoped that Coach K would marry a lady named Shoshana Shashevsky. Well, that's pretty funny. Instead of Mickey. Yeah, Mac Brown's popped up already. There, John. That's an easy.
Could you definitely spell Shashevsky easily right now?
Only because I'm a nerd could I get close. So how was it? It's the weird. It's the Z. That's the weird part. And I'm trying to think of where is the Z, or are there two? I think it's KRZEWSKI, right?
I think it's KRZYZ.
Yeah, you're right.
There's a Y in there.
Kurzajewski.
So it's KRZYZEWSKI. All
I
right.
think so, yeah. It's not an easy one. And there's really no,
For Travis.
like, sounding it out, there's no way that Shashevsky should be what it. Belichick's a tough one too.
Right.
I never know how to spell Belichick. Because I know it's Chick, not Check, but everybody says Belichick.
Right. Izzo's on the other end of the spectrum. IZZO.
Yeah. Did you see the Maryland basketball tweet yesterday? They put out a good tweet. It said, "Congrats, John Shire," and then it was just a video of Jordan Williams dunking in his face and knocking him to the ground.
Maryland. Wow.
It's like all of the biggest games at that arena were just upsetting top 5 Duke teams.
Oh, the glory days when Maryland basketball was relevant.
Maryland basketball is going to be a top 5 preseason team this year. They've won. Since they've been in the Big Ten, they have the best record in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and no one cares. ESPN too.
A lot of people care.
No one cares around here because they're not in the ACC anymore.
Yeah.
Jen, have you heard back from Chris? Did Jen walk out, or is she in there?
No, I'm here. No, I have not yet.
Okay.
Assuming you're talking about the baseball game at noon, ESPN 2, Travis.
Yes, right.
Are you willing to admit that if you had one game to win in their particular sport, you might choose the coach that's on your most unlikable list if you had to win the game? I'm willing to admit that, man. I got Nick Saban on my list. But if I had one college football game to win, I'd probably put Nick Saban in charge of my team. From a basketball perspective, Gino Auriemma, it's hard to go against the actual success. Are you willing to admit that? I feel like, Patrick, you are absolutely not willing to admit that.
For Coach K?
For anyone on your list, you got 5 names behind you right now. Dabo Swinney, Coach K, Urban Meyer, Pete Carroll.
30.
Would you Tony La Russa?
Game day coach and Mike Krzyzewski.
Bill, what about you? Would you admit your dislike guys? Would you take any of those college baseball guys if you had one college baseball game to win? Would you admit Tim Corbin? Probably a pretty good choice.
Over O'Sullivan, I wouldn't have Leggett there. Yeah, probably Corbin. I go Corbin.
Howard 3 coming up.
Head women's basketball coach Dawn Staley, and you're listening to the home of the Gamecocks, WNKT.
No, I wouldn't because my guys are pro.
Monty on the text line mentioning the same thing. He was on a lot of Gamecock fans' lists. That's pretty creative. See what Trey did here? Bill, everything all right over there? It looks like you got some serious stuff going on.
Well, I'm alternating. There was something at the office, but right now I'm trying to need to just call Crowder. Let me. I'm trying to get in touch with Jacob Crowder.
Look, sir, do that off the air. My 6 and 8 year old are gonna go to the noon game tomorrow with my pops. They're all pumped up about it around here.
That's awesome. That'll be so much fun.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully the weather cooperates.
Yeah. The playground there is covered. I'm pretty sure it's reopened now that you got 100% capacity.
There you go.
I'll throw them on the playground if it's raining too much.
You're talking about Pops or the kids?
Yes,
Yes.
sure. Yes.
That's fun.
Man, what a big game.
I feel like we'll come through that okay.
I feel like they better. Otherwise, public sentiment takes a huge hit.
But would it take a bigger hit if they weren't hosting, or like, can you get away with not advancing because you at least hosted a regional?
No, because you hosted as a 2 seed. And
Sure.
it's almost held against you more.
Yeah.
I think if you lose at home.
Yeah. Good point.
Speaking of Maryland, Patrick, when Maryland came to Columbia, super regional back in the day, I believe it was super regional. Might have just been a regional. That was kind of unthinkable at that point for Gamecock baseball. I think that was 15, maybe.
They made the tournament this year.
Maryland did?
Yeah. They're in the East Carolina region.
Huh. As a 3 seed?
I guess so. Yeah, the 3 seed.
Means I'm guessing they were one of the last teams then.
Apparently, they were in the top 25 in some of the polls at the end of the year. I heard Jay say that during our show last week, and I was very surprised to hear that because I've never heard about Maryland baseball being relevant.
Right. Again, That's an ACC issue too. Oh, this dude's been good all year, Travis. Got one of the highest strikeout numbers in the country, I think. Need to look and see where he lands, actually. NCAA college baseball stats. See how close Abbott is to the top. I'm guessing Rocker, Leiter, some other SEC guys. I don't think Kevin Kopps has thrown enough innings. Individual statistics, strikeouts. Yep, right up there. Second. He has more strikeouts this year than Jack Leiter. Holy crap. Leiter and Rocker ended up exactly tied for strikeouts on the season, total strikeouts. 135. Andrew Abbott from Virginia, Friday starter, tomorrow starter against the Gamecocks, 136. And a guy from Maine, the only other guy in the country that has more strikeouts. And he's done it in 10 fewer innings than Abbott, 4 fewer innings than Leiter, 12 fewer innings than Rocker. Nicholas Sinicola. I want to remember that name. 139 strikeouts. A couple other dudes on this list. Let's see. And no other SEC names on this list. Got to go down to Nick Azzi for Ole Miss. He's at number 19 on the list, but only through 78 innings. I think he ended up getting hurt there towards the end, right? And it's done. What other SEC names? Tommy Mace from Florida is 24th.
Jen, I just sent you a text message.
Okay.
Boy.
Yeah. My day has been ruined.
Oh.
Rick Pitino, first time he's made the list. That's a good
You
one.
know what? I was trying to figure out which list I would put him on, my likable list or my unlikable list. I think for most people, it's pretty simple. Business, John. Business.
We are heading back in. Carry at 8:40.
I've got another Love Chevy. I had 2 today. Is that the way I read the?
Interestingly, yeah.
So that is correct?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Weird. That's why I'm off, and that's why at 8:40 I need you guys to do one at the beginning and one at the end.
Okay.
Didn't have enough breaks. Guys are up.
Coach K decides to call it quits after this upcoming season. John Shire will take over at Duke. That has led us into a conversation of most likable and unlikable coaches. Give us your top 5. We'd love to hear them. And most people go with top 5 unlikable, by the way. Just kind of says how we see things as sports fans. And more college basketball news from the Gamecock perspective. Keyshawn Bryant, Jermaine Couisnard coming back to school and making it official yesterday. To me, Keyshawn Bryant is one of the most exciting Gamecock players I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know who else I'd put up there. Guys, I guess the one that comes to mind from the football standpoint is Steve Taneyhill. I'm talking about exciting, right? Which means to me, I don't know what's going to happen next. When Keyshawn Bryant gets the ball, I don't know if he's going to fall down and turn it over or go dunk on someone's head and be the top play in SportsCenter. When Steve Taneyhill had the ball, I didn't know if it was going to be a celebratory home run swing after a 60-yard touchdown pass or a pick six going the other way. Those are the guys that I'm talking about exciting. Devin Downey, I put in that category just because he would make my jaw drop sometimes with what he could do with a basketball, but I didn't think was possible, especially at his size. And then sometimes it would go wrong the other way for sure. Trying to think of other guys out there from an exciting standpoint, and it's a relatively short list. Bill, any pop into your mind as far as exciting Gamecock players? Because Keyshawn Bryant, just his athleticism puts him in a special category from the Gamecock perspective in my mind.
Maybe it's because I was younger. Maybe it's because I just started college. I don't know. Derek Watson comes to mind. I don't know. It just
yeah, he was exciting, man. No doubt.
Yeah, I mean, at that time, I don't know. Maybe it's because South Carolina had lost 21 straight, and as he got into his sophomore year, he was fun to watch. But yeah, I'd put him on that list. And again, back to the basketball thing, I no clue how South Carolina basketball will be this year. Not trying to oversell or undersell that team, but I'm fascinated by him. I will be fascinated with the schedule that Frank Martin puts together, how difficult it'll be, how it sets this team up for SEC play, how these transfers affect the program, how it seems, Patrick, you and I talked about it, or you brought it up more about the body language and the excitement. And y'all watched it. It didn't seem like these guys disliked each other, but it also didn't seem like there was a good chemistry between Lawson, Bryant, and then whatever happened to Couisnard this year. So it's kind of interesting, to see if the departure of AJ Lawson is actually a good thing. If they weren't certain of their roles, I don't know. It's just I don't know what to make of this basketball team when we get through or get into November and we start watching them play. But I know this, I'll be very interested by it.
Absolutely agree. Yeah. Last year was it was fascinating on multiple levels, right? Everything that every college basketball team had to deal with, but especially the Gamecocks with the starts and stops to the season and the COVID issues. So it's hard for me to look at this thing as simply kind of an example of sports chemistry. Does that make sense, Bill? I feel like this was, everything rolled into it, society and what all of us were dealing with and all the protocols and then basketball on top of that. And then the way that Frank Martin approaches a basketball season as well, that we've seen multiple times when COVID had, was not a big factor. We've seen Gamecock basketball teams kind of struggle to really find their identity at the beginning. And Frank's always talked about how long it takes him to get to know players and players to get to know him. But these guys were experienced and they knew each other. And it didn't look like it on the basketball court. Or if they knew each other, it was like they knew that they couldn't trust one another on the basketball court or something to that effect. I don't know what it was, but it was tough to watch last year. But Keyshawn Bryant was kind of the exception to me a lot of times, that at least in one instance or two during a game, you could count on a bit of a highlight play one way or another. Maybe he would smack a shot on defense and spike it like a volleyball, or he would get out in the open court typically and be able to do something exciting. To me, he is that guy, that rare guy at the high level of college sports from the Gamecock perspective. You got to throw on the live stream, DC hit us up, said Sterling Sharp. Absolutely, he belongs in that category from back in the 80s. I know a little bit before your time, Bill. But a guy that when he touched the ball, it was going to be exciting 9 times out of 10, one way or the other. And you just didn't know quite what to expect there. So the fact that Keyshawn Bryant is coming back and he's not taking that athleticism somewhere else to where I think Gamecock fans would have naturally been like, oh, why do they get that instead of us this year? I think that's a big positive for the program for sure. But we talked about it last season, Bill, that the most important guy on the team was Jermaine Couisnard. And I think that goes with him coming back as well. His influence, one way or the other, I think will will probably go the farthest in defining what Gamecock basketball is next season, because we saw it 2 seasons ago when he had his first year redshirt freshman, played well. Carolina be, I think, better than a lot of people expected. And then we saw it last year where he struggled, and so did the team, and it was tough to watch.
Couisnard is, I mean, I'm with you. I think he's the guy that has to have a good season for South Carolina to be competitive and have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. I think Keyshawn Bryant, you know what you're going to get. And it's kind of like what you said. You're going to get 14 to 16 points. Maybe you have that big night where he goes over 20. Maybe you have the off night where he's under 10. But by and large, it's going to be 14 to 16 points. Like you said, it's going to be rebounds. It's going to be athleticism. We'll see if he gets better at defending his particular position or how they utilize him. But to me, yeah, it's Couisnard. And it's also determining, I don't know if it feels like, what position do you play Couisnard for? Because it feels like he's not supposed to be a point guard, but that's where he excelled as a redshirt freshman. Last year, you had TJ Moss and you had Seventh Woods, and you moved Couisnard off the ball, and it's like he didn't know what he didn't feel comfortable in that role. He didn't know what he was doing. Well, now you've got Chico Carter and you've got Jacoby Wright coming in, 2 more point guards. Does Couisnard feel more comfortable off the ball this year? Is he a guy that you go with as your starting point guard because Carter's a transfer and Wright will be a freshman? I mean, there's going to be some coaching that really some significant coaching is going to have to take place, and this isn't a season I feel like where you can just say, well, we'll figure it out during the non-conference portion, and then when we get to conference play, we're ready to go. I feel like this is going to be a season where you're going to get some interest early in the year. But if you have one of those bad losses, I don't know who they'll play, Stetson, Boston, name another one that's popped up, Wofford, in the last few years. You have one of those bad losses, I think this fan base is going to very, very quickly disconnect. I feel like there will be interest. I don't know if there will be expectations, but I feel like there will be interest in this basketball team. But you suffer one of those losses like we've seen in the last few years, and I feel like this fan base will check out very quickly.
Short leash.
Oh.
Yeah.
Short leash, you're saying, Patrick?
I agree, yeah.
Inside basketball real quick, Bill. What position did Dwayne Notice play for the Gamecocks? Was he point guard? Was he an off guard?
His senior year?
The reason why I asked, let me preface it. Let me set it up for you, because Frank Martin, more than any coach that I've ever heard, says he likes to play 2 point guards at a time. If he can have the preference, he'll play 2 point guards on the floor at the same time. And I feel like Dwayne Notice was a bit of a hybrid combo guy, and the combination of he and PJ Dozier worked really well because it really wasn't Notice in charge of handling the ball. It was PJ Dozier, but it was Notice who was in charge of guarding the ball. Is that a fair way to assess that Final Four team and the roles there, or do you see it different?
No, it's Dwayne Notice Dwayne Notice, his senior season didn't have a good offensive senior season, or at least not as good as it had been. But he was that team's. I think if you needed a stop, as good as Thornwell was, I think Frank looked toward Dwayne Notice, and Jermaine Couisnard can be that guy. I don't know how bad his defense was last year. That's a question for Frank Martin, who watches far more game film and understands it better than I do. But there's a lot there with his defense that I don't know enough about. What I do know is his offense suffered, and that's got to change this year, because to me the roles will be more defined this year. You're going to look at Bryant and Couisnard as your 1-2 punch, much in the same way we looked at Sendarius and PJ as your 1-2 punch. Having a
except Sendarius was always the one, and you don't know which one of Keyshawn and Couisnard is going to be the one. Like this team doesn't have an alpha, or hasn't had an alpha in quite some time.
I disagree. I think Couisnard was that guy in his first year, wasn't he? I mean, he had to beat Kentucky.
Yeah, well, there's Patrick hit the nail on the head towards the end. And what happened last year that caused him to lose that role or not have it? We always talked about AJ Lawson stepping up and being that alpha, but that was not his personality.
Right.
That just wasn't AJ Lawson was just a basketball player. He's a good basketball player, but he was just a basketball player, and he was going to go do his thing. And so we'll see. Keyshawn Bryant started becoming more vocal. I was going to say stepping up as a leader, but at the end of the season, becoming more vocal. And so I'll be interested to see if he becomes the alpha. One of those two guys, and maybe it can be a tandem. I mean, look, I think Dwayne Notice was an alpha. I think he deferred to Sendarius Thornwell, and I think you can have those two guys, but it'll be interesting to see. Again, we won't hype the team. We won't tell everybody they're supposed to be great, but I think the bottom line is at least, the beginning of the season, it's going to be really interesting to see what this team looks like, especially when you add what appears to be some good shooters in Carter, in Chico Carter, in freshman Devin Carter, and then in Eric Stevenson, who at least at Wichita State was a very good three-point shooter.
It just dawned on me now that just like you're talking about an alpha, I think we're talking about a go-to guy on offense. I've never even thought about the concept really of a go-to guy on defense. But thinking back on last season, that to me is the huge difference between the 6-15 team we saw that had talented players out there on the floor and the Final Four team that we saw 4 years before. Is that I felt like on defense, Bill, nobody really looked forward to making a stop or had any confidence that they could make a stop. I mean, it was a non-Frank Martin defensive team, unlike we've ever seen, unlike Frank's ever had. And I think it's up to these two guys who are coming back to set the tone more defensively than offensively, man, because that is the Frank Martin team identity. They have to be the ones to relish, I think, those possessions and making plays on defense. And then I think the offense can kind of take care of itself, because we heard Frank say several times that struggles on defense led to struggles on offense from the player's perspective. And to me, that's one thing that, like, you're going to have bad shooting nights, but lack of effort or lack of execution defensively, it doesn't make much sense to me. And not being able to bring that every single game, I think, is really what was the undoing last year in that 6-15 season.
I'm not saying the talent there was good enough to win the SEC. Please, when I make my next comment, don't think I'm saying that. However, that wasn't talent-wise. 6-15 was ridiculously bad. Like they weren't talent-wise, they weren't a 6-15 team. Something that maybe one day we'll learn about, because I think Frank Martin kind of has talked about it, about him not being well, his struggles as a coach last year. Then you kind of go back and you talk about maybe some of the guys missing time. I don't know. They've kind of alluded to it. I think there was more going on behind the scenes than we know, because it just not only to lose the number of games, but to lose in the manner they did. What was it? The last 10 was by double digits. Like, I mean, they weren't competitive. It really is kind of, it looked so discombobulated. So the chemistry, Patrick would hit on it after every game, just the energy. I mean, that team at times didn't look like they even wanted to be there. And so we'll see. I think
half the team leaving and going to schools that are stepped down.
Yeah, I agree.
You're talking about all the transfers out.
Yeah. But I mean, and you're right about that. Nobody's transferring up. I do think you kept two of your three best players, and those are the guys that could have gone elsewhere. Now you're talking about a role player in Moss, a guy who was injured in Seventh Woods for most of the year. It seemed like. Jalen McCrary was a start. I did like McCrary, and I'd like to know more about maybe what his interest was from other schools, or what he actually had to choose from. But South Florida is not an awful program. It's not McNeese State where TJ Moss ended up, and I think we said San Jose State where Trey Anderson ended up. But look, it's going to just be interesting to watch them, because I don't think they're an awful. I don't think it's it's a garbage program right now. I don't think that they're an awful program. I wouldn't pick them. If I had to submit a poll, I need to look at the SEC before I really make this comment. I'd have them somewhere between 6 and 10 in the league, 7 and 11, something like that is where I would have them placed going into the season. But we'll see. Again, I don't think that's picking them very high.
No doubt that's where they've been picked in a lot of years past, and then they finished in the top 4 in the league. Last year was kind of the opposite. They were actually predicted to finish much better, I think somewhere around 5th for a lot of preseason polls, and then it did not go well, clearly. Trey says Patrick's all over it this morning. He literally made him delete his YouTube live comment about the transfers because Patrick was spot on. You can catch that YouTube, Facebook live feed, also up and rolling on Twitter. If you like the video version, that's sponsored by Buford Lending. Up and rolling on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line as well. A bunch of your texts rolling in. Several of you mentioning DJ Swearinger as your exciting Gamecock player. Interesting that Jadeveon Clowney hasn't popped up, but he certainly, maybe we just all take him for granted that he was that guy. Also, from the basketball perspective, I think this is pretty close to the Keyshawn Bryant deal. Well, one of you mentioned Ronaldo Balkman. JoJo English is who I wanted to hit up with Rob that almost beat Michael Jordan in the dunk competition back in the day. And then a lot of you mentioning Ronaldo Balkman, or several of you mentioning him. And I'd throw maybe Michael Carrera in there. Not quite as athletic, but as a guy that you didn't know what's going to happen, man. You get a rebound and then he just turns and goes. And it was like almost like you just let a fish go in the water and they're gone. Balkman and Carrera kind of similar in that way. Balkman much more athletic, kind of on the same plane maybe as Keyshawn Bryant, and certainly deserve to be in the conversation or as most exciting Gamecocks. I'm fascinated to see what happens with this basketball season, and Keyshawn Bryant and Jermaine Couisnard coming back are a big part of that. We'll get back into our discussion about most liked and hated coaches coming off the Coach K news, the retirement news from yesterday. Again, John Shire is going to take over for Duke basketball after this last season for Mike Krzyzewski. That's a sentence that I never thought I would be saying, and news coming out yesterday that I think took a lot of people by surprise. We've also got plenty of baseball to discuss as well. The noon game set for tomorrow. Virginia and South Carolina. Looked up some of the numbers for Virginia starter Andrew Abbott. Whew, impressive stuff. Try to give you that perspective too as we roll on this morning. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
That is awesome. You know what else is awesome? Purchasing a new vehicle, whether it's pre-owned or new, it's just an exciting feeling. Makes you feel good about yourself, especially when you get a great deal or you have a large selection or you have a knowledgeable sales staff, all the things you get at Love Chevrolet. That's why they have been servicing the Midlands for 60 years, taking care of you, taking care of other families. Go visit them again. If you're in the market for a new or pre-owned vehicle, the folks at Love Chevrolet have got you taken care of. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. 14 acres of brand new Chevrolets to choose from. You're going to find the make, the model, the interior, the exterior, the color that you've been looking for. If you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, they have a great lot as well. You can finance through them, buy there, pay there. All the great things that Love Chevrolet has always offered, still there. Go find out for yourself. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frank Fun Park, or on the web, lovechevy.com. Get out to Love Chevrolet and find new roads. Oh,
It's a pretty good question. What do you think's more unknown going into the season, football or basketball?
yeah, I like that one.
Definitely make a case either way, man.
I think we know what we don't know about football, though.
We know what we don't know.
Or like we know we don't know how good they'll be, but we know where they'll be good and we know where they'll be bad, mostly.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I don't know anything about quarterback.
Yeah,
well, but
that's
I agree
one,
with
but-
him. You feel like your defensive line and running back should be good.
I'll give you running backs. I ain't giving you defensive line. Enigbare is going to make some plays. Outside of that, I don't feel like I got anything on the defensive line. I get that they are highly recruited, but I've also seen them play the last few years.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Did they really get beat in the run game, though?
They got beat all over the place.
Well,
I mean, their NFL players got beat in the secondary only. Got not much pass rush outside of Enigbare.
I do think you're right. I think regardless, they were all bottom quarter of the league. But weird. This will be the SEC Network's 8th season. Feels like a lot longer than that, right?
Yep. So we'll try to get out of here 8:40 at the latest. We got Kerry coming up. And last.
How does the SEC not have total defense for their statistics? They have total offense, but on defense they just have tackles, sacks, and interceptions.
Yeah, that page stinks. You got to go to like ESPN or somewhere else to get defense stats, I think. Yeah, he admitted it. He admitted it, Rodney. Bottom quarter and everything.
No, I've said they're bad and everything. And I've also said multiple times that I've just blocked out last year after the ball hit Cam Smith's foot. I really blocked out the end of the year.
The high school game you're talking about, Craig? If it is, I did not cover that thing.
Yeah, it was Lexington Northwestern.
That was my
North Augusta. I'm sorry. North Augusta.
Might have been covering Cedric Benson that night in Texas. Oh, 2000 and 2003 was those football seasons.
Yep. I believe that game was 03, Craig, if I remember correctly.
No, it would have been 02, Bill. I got actually 03 football season.
Oh, yeah.
In Columbia. So 2000, 2001, 2002, I was in Abilene, Texas.
Oh, no, I meant the Summers Merriweather game, I think was 03.
No, if it was 03, I would have covered it.
A high school game down in North Augusta?
Yeah.
Really? Well, Craig, what year was it? Yep, I know. What year was it?
Would have been 2002. I'm guessing that means, that means. Wait a second. Let me do that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Because 03 was Summers' freshman year.
Right.
You're right. I was thinking his freshman year was 04, but it was 03.
He technically graduated high school in 03, right, in the spring, but his first football season was also 03.
Head back in. guys are up.
Would love your help on Thursday, June 17th. If you can, mark that down on your calendar. It's Summer Blood Drive. The American Red Cross right there on Bull Street in downtown Columbia, 10 a.m. through 4 p.m. Pre-registration strongly encouraged. Walk-ins are welcome. You can go to our website, 1075game.com, for more information. A bunch of you continuing to send in your lists of hated and loved coaches, or liked and unliked if you prefer to go not quite so strong. Interesting list from Scott. Mark Few from Gonzaga up there. And he's not the first person that's put Mark Few on his list of liked coaches. He does seem like a guy that's hard to dislike, I'll say anyway. I don't know if you jump on him as a guy that you like, but maybe it's the Gonzaga story as well, being a relatively small program. I mean, John Stockton did play there, so it's not like they've been irrelevant in college basketball, but Mark Few has made it into a powerhouse program, much like Jay Wright has taken Villanova, a previous national championship winning program, and kind of to that next level and to where they're almost there perennially. So Jay Wright's number 2, interestingly enough, for Scott. He's going to stick with the college basketball theme the entire way and go with Juwan Howard as his number 3 like coach. Chris Beard of Texas Tech, and now Chris Beard's going to Texas now, is that right? From Texas Tech to Texas? Am I making that up? I'm not making that up, am I, Bill? Such a strange word.
Chris Beard.
No, you're not making that up.
Texas.
From Texas Tech. Gotcha.
Chuck Smart with the Marquette.
Who?
And Leonard Hamilton was number 5.
Shaka going. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So Shaka Smart going from Texas to Marquette. Chris Beard making the relatively lateral move, in-conference move, which is so weird. Texas Tech to Texas, I get it. There's a few more resources at Texas, but interesting list there from Scott about most liked and unliked coaches. Would love to hear more of yours as we continue to go on and do that. Jordan asked a question on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. What do you guys think is more of an unknown going into the upcoming season, football or basketball? He's talking about from the Gamecock perspective. I'm going to go football, but I get it if you're going to tell me basketball with all the flux that Frank Martin's roster has gone through. Just because Frank is kind of the proven commodity there, I feel like that's why I throw the nod over to football being more of an unknown, because it's Shane Beamer's first time as a head coach. It's Marcus Satterfield's first time as an SEC offensive coordinator. Clayton White, first time SEC defensive coordinator. And then the players outside of the running back position where you feel like it's going to be really pretty good, I don't know where else. I know, Bill, in the live video stream, you mentioned maybe the defensive line being pretty proven. To me, I still have to see more there, and that's why I give from the most unknown nod, I give it to Gamecock football going into this upcoming season. What about you, Bill?
I kind of want to argue for basketball because I think I'm with Patrick on this. I think Patrick Alver said that we know there are things we know about this football team. I'm so confused by what I've seen from this basketball team. They've got 4 starters back from a team that, remember, or I should say 3 starters. Frank started. I don't think Levesque started. Maybe he did. Maybe he started a couple games his freshman year, but I don't think he did. They had. I don't think he started any. Yeah, Couisnard. Yeah. But I only say that because again, in terms of experience, you're going to have a guy who's been in the program for 3 years now in Couisnard, and Bryant's been in the program for 3 years. I think that's right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I think it's Couisnard's 4th, right? Because he had to sit out a year, so he had a red shirt.
Yeah, it's true.
He's played 2.
So I think it might be Bryant's 4th. I
think it's Bryant's 4th year as well.
But I guess my point on that is, like, you look at that again. It's not going to be an inexperienced team in terms of college experience. They've got to learn to play together. But I don't know. They could be next year. They could go 10-20, and I'd be like, yeah, that seems about right. They could go 21-9 and make the NCAA tournament. I'd be like, yeah, oh, okay, I can see. Like, I really have no clue what this basketball team's going to do. I've seen Jermaine Couisnard be a contributor at the SEC level, and I've seen him be awful. I've seen Keyshawn Bryant be consistent. I've seen some decent stuff from Williams Levesque. I know that Alonzo Frey, but I don't know what they're actually going to do. Football, I feel like South Carolina is going to run the football effectively. I told you off air, the one thing you disagreed with me on the live stream was I think the defensive line will be okay. There are some positions.
Want to be a little more than okay.
Okay, you're going a little bit more than okay, but I just
You have guys that are proven, and then you have guys that have a lot of potential.
Yeah,
I got JJ and Igbare. Who else you got?
I mean, Zach Pickens played well last year. Jordan Burke showed you plenty, and honestly, Tonka Hemingway showed you a decent amount of shit that he can take snaps this year and be pretty effective. You have Jabari Ellis has played a lot of football for you. Jordan Stroud led the nation in sacks last year. Aaron Sterling has been pretty solid. I mean, there's proven guys and there's guys that you don't know. Like Stroud, you don't know what he's going to be able to do when he takes the next jump up, but you don't need him to start either because Burton and Igbare will be solid on the outside. You know they're going to be good, and you know Pickens will be good, and you know Jabari Ellis can be relied upon.
Rick Sanders just played good at times. He's the key. He's the guy for me that makes that defensive line go.
Yeah.
I guess the definition of good is where I would take it to issue. They've been on the field. It hasn't been a good defense recently.
No, as a whole.
I don't know.
As a whole, you're right. They've been a bad defense.
Well,
but you're talking about
individuals on the defensive line. They've played well.
So how has the line not played well then? You can't tell me that defensive line played well the last couple of years.
J.C. Horn has played well. J.C. Horn played well as an individual, right?
Right. Singular.
And the secondary as a whole,
awful. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I'll give you Igbare. But outside of him, I get the other guys.
Pickens didn't play well.
I'm with Patrick on this. There are for whatever reason. Again, it's just where South Carolina sports is, I guess. With that, some individuals have played well. Javon Kinlaw played well 2 years ago.
Yep.
J.C. Horn played well. I mean, again, you go back and you look at some guys that have gone on, and DJ Wanham. But again, as a whole, we're not. I don't think either of us are trying to argue with you, but I do agree that I've seen some good things from players on that defense line to make me believe. Maybe they won't be. Maybe coaching will be bad. Maybe Jimmy Lindsey's not the answer. Maybe Clayton White's defense is confusing and they don't know what they're doing. That's to me what it comes down to is coaching. I feel like Patrick and I are maybe siding with the fact we believe you can't coach any worse than we've seen defensively the last few years.
So, Patrick, where does this make you lean? Bill says he's leaning basketball. I'm going football as the more unknown. You agreeing with Bill here and going basketball?
Yeah, I'm with Bill because I mean we don't even know what to expect from the guys that we've seen. At least in football, we know probably not going to be great on the outside. The secondary is we don't know who's even going to play there. They're probably not going to be very good. The wide receivers probably are not going to be very good, but the offensive line will be okay, and the defensive line I think will be above average. And the running game, obviously, you expect a lot there. The quarterback is the big unknown, so I mean that would weigh it in football's favor. But we don't even know what the Jermaine Couisnard or Keyshawn Bryant could be when we come back. And I couldn't even tell you the names of all the transfers that we have coming in because I've forgotten them. I've never seen them play, and they're coming from schools that I never watched. So I mean, it's truly everything about the basketball team is an unknown at this point.
I think you can make that argument from the football side as well. I mean, just because you followed the name of Jordan Strawn and know he led the nation in sacks at Georgia State, I know you don't follow Georgia State football too closely, even though they've got the former interim coach there in Sean Elliott.
None of our basketball transfers led the nation in anything.
It's difficult to do.
I mean, the bottom line is both of them are completely unknown. Both of them. That's what kind of makes the conversation interesting.
I feel like I know that neither of them are going to be very good.
I think that's what you're going to get from a preseason prediction standpoint, no doubt. I mean, you're talking about Vegas over-under from some places is 3.5 wins for Gamecock football, right around 4 from Gamecock basketball after last year. Bill, I know you said between 6 and 10 in the SEC. I think it'll be more between 10 and 14 is where Frank Martin's team will be predicted in the preseason.
That's very likely.
many times before, though.
I don't know enough about the rest of the league. Like, I have no clue what Buzz Williams has at Texas A&M. I haven't done a deep dive into that. I don't know what whoever's at Mississippi now, whose name I'm drawing up, Kermit Davis, I think. I have no clue what Mississippi has. Florida's got a bunch of transfers coming in. I haven't taken the time to look at Georgia. The bottom line is you may be right. It's not like it would be a shock. Vanderbilt, you got to think they're going to be at the bottom. I don't know what the rest of the league is right now in basketball. I have an idea in football. Like football, you can look at it and go, okay, we just start narrowing down the East. It's Georgia, Florida at the top, Vanderbilt's at the bottom, and then again, I'll lump Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, and South Carolina all in that group together, kind of as in terms of talent. I think all are talent. I think South Carolina's been out-coached by everybody drastically the last 4 years, but maybe that changes this year. Maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, and that's why I give the nod to football as being more of the unknown, just because no one's ever seen Shane Beamer as a head coach. It hasn't happened before. We don't know what that's going to entail exactly, and how much to take comments like on their face, right, for face value, or how much coach speak we're getting at this point with the transition for Gamecock football. And then also, maybe a lot of the comments are 100% honest and forthright and transparent, and yet the personnel might not match up for what the coaching staff really wants to do, or ideally would do if they have their guys in place at this point in the program, which would just not be the case. 803-404-6100 is the number into the program. If you would like to join, love to have your comments. A bunch of you continuing to weigh in with your coaches most liked and most hated. This is coming off the Coach K news from yesterday, the retirement news. Jeff goes with most likable is David Bennett, former Coastal Carolina coach, and then came coach here in town and in high school after that. Most hated, he says, is Will Muschamp. I haven't seen a lot of that today, and maybe that's just a recency thing, but to me, that's awfully strong. It's almost like at the end of the Florida tenure where you heard Jeremy Foley, athletic director, just say, "Yeah, we don't want to do this. It's really likable. We really like Will Muschamp, but this is something we felt like we have to do." I feel like that's kind of how it went for a lot of people in the South Carolina situation as well. Wanted to believe he was going to be the guy, and then the results just didn't come with it, Bill. Maybe we can get a behind-the-scenes opinion from longtime information director Kerry Tharp about how he's seen these transitions go before, because he's been behind the scenes in the Brad Scott days, the Lou Holtz days. He also is front and center now as the Darlington Raceway president from what's going on in NASCAR. So we'll get our NASCAR picks going. And yes, Bill will wag his finger and
no, he's front and center. He's front and center at Darlington, but he's second place on this show in our NASCAR.
But he still tops with class. So there we go.
Well done, Jeff. Well
You're
done.
not first, you're last.
If class has ever been associated with anybody, we all know it's Ricky Bobby.
There you go.
And this show to begin with. It's the early game here. 5 to game.
And new head football coach, Shane Beamer, 106.5 The Game. Today is an absolute dream come true. Not just to be a
I may not have much class. However, there are two things in life I do know. One, I know how to make NASCAR picks. That's why I'm in first place. Two, I know that if my heating and air unit is having an issue, I immediately call AAA Heating and Air. That's what I can guarantee you. Take my NASCAR pick to the bank. It's going to be a winner. And if I tell you that you're having an issue, or someone, or you figured out you're having an issue with your heating and air unit, you need to call AAA Heating and Air. 803-677-1500. They will come out. Billy came out, checked on my unit, made sure everything was working, because there's nothing worse than your air conditioner not working during a Columbia summer. If there's an issue, they'll offer you a $1,500 rebate to take away your old unit. Then they'll work with you. Financing options, no money down, 0%. They will work with you to make sure your family is comfortable. They work. Roy and Dana Finley at AAA Heating and Air work for you. They want to make sure your family is happy during the summer, during the winter. They treat you like a family member. So if you have an issue with your heating and air unit, don't mess around. Give AAA Heating and Air a call today, 803-677-1500. They've got a 15-year parts and labor warranty as well. No reason not to call them if you have an issue. Again, that's 803-677-1500. Give AAA Heating and Air a call today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Oh, I'm just hung out to dry here all by myself. Just me and all of y'all here. Alan, I hope he is. You know, we haven't put Shane on the list of most likable guys. Just, I think, you know, kind of like I didn't want to put any South Carolina coaches, but we'll see what happens. But I agree. I'm interested to see Shane. I guess I should research this pick for the week.
I see your note there, Jen. Yes, I will do that.
Just trying to have a little heads up.
Appreciate it.
Save mark 350. 350 at Sonoma Raceway. It's a road course, huh? Back on a road course. Got it. Key information when picking a winner. Oh, I've got the top pick. How do I
Where's
get
the
rid of
race?
this video? No, I don't want the video. Get rid of the video.
Knock this out real quick. Guys, it's a crazy time right now in the housing market. Increasing property values, straining affordable housing numbers across South Carolina. Now is the most important time to choose an experienced mortgage broker. I recommend you talk to Benji Getzy and his team at Beaufort Lending. Make sure your family can find the lowest rate and the best program for your purchase. Lower rates, the best rate on the market, giving you some extra buying power you need to get that home of your dreams. Maybe it's a second home you're looking at. Maybe you're looking to refinance. And if you're a veteran out there, VA loans right now on fire. Benji wanted to let you know that the record rates in the low twos, no money out of pocket, no income, no appraisal needed, can refinance up to 90% of your value, rate, and term, or cash out in the refinance. My broker and your broker, everybody's broker, located 1 mile east of Paris Island, USA, down in the low country there. It's Beaufort Lending. Give them a call today. Benji Getzy and Company, 843-524-2404. Patrick, you're on mute here, just FYI on the live stream.
Yep.
Former longtime sports information director at USC, current Darlington Raceway president Kerry Tharp, joining us now, as usual, on a Thursday morning, coming off some NASCAR picks where, unfortunately, as usual, Bill Country continues to lead the way. Kerry, my apologies for Bill in this upcoming segment. I know you know what's coming.
Yep. Easiest to short.
Mm. And he didn't even know it, right, Bill?
Exactly.
I was shocked about it. We should have. Oh, Jen, you didn't hear on Tuesday. We really actually should start having a segment on Monday where you tell me the winner of the NASCAR race. Because when I looked at my phone on Monday morning, I was like, Kyle Larson won. I think somebody had Kyle Larson, and I had to go look at Jen's tweet to see who it was.
Outstanding.
And I was so confused that I had Kyle Larson. I didn't want to retweet it because I still wasn't sure I had Kyle Larson. But turns out, when you're picking winners at the rate that I do, you just forget these things. You just make the pick and you move on.
When you don't know what you're doing, you forget those things.
Jerry, I thought it was great for NASCAR. I saw a picture, Charlotte Motor Speedway in 2020, empty, and then Charlotte Motor Speedway this past weekend, packed and a much different environment. And now making the transition from Charlotte over to Sonoma. Let's get right into the picks. Here's some winning picks from Kerry. Right now you're trailing Bill by 8 points in our picks contest. Jen is trailing you by 11. And then poor Reggie Anderson clearly has no business being in this NASCAR picks contest over there at WLTX. And
now, now, Bill, keep in mind in making your pick, there is a new aero package and there's a new tire that they're using. So just I hope you got all that. Okay.
Yeah, he's all over that.
Yeah.
Glenn, it's really pretty out there, the wine country, etc. But I'm going to stick with the Hendrick bandwagon. They are right now the class of the field. I'm going to go with William Byron. To win out at Sonoma on Sunday. I just feel like it's time for him to get one of these road course victories.
A stolen pick from Jen Jensen. You heard her frustration there. Kerry Tharp.
Which is frustrating to me because Jen was going to pick a loser just as Kerry did. So that's great.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you, Kerry. I think that William Byron's time is coming, and I really felt like last week he might have had a shot for that. So I'm with you. Well, then kind of going between two that are really strong out there. Chase hasn't done as well. Truex has more experience out there. I'm going to go with the young gun. I think Chase is going to get it.
Okay.
Thank you, Jen. That was close. You almost took the favorite, which is Martin Truex Jr. He will be the pick. He has won 3 road course races from 2017 to 2019. 2 of them have come at Sonoma, including the 2019 race. You got to go with the favorite here, Truex Jr. This is why I constantly win. You go with the favorite, and it's Martin Truex Jr. He'll get the job done.
Kerry, thank you for, as always, your patience here with Bill especially, and giving us some of your expertise into the NASCAR world. He's Darlington Raceway President Kerry Tharp, who I think just picked correctly this week's winner out at Sonoma and will make a huge jump in our NASCAR pick segment hopefully next week.
I hope so.
Kerry, thanks as always for joining us.
Thank you.
At Kerry_Tharp, where you can find Kerry. You can always go to DarlingtonRaceway.com for everything up to date there. Bill, stop stretching and looking smug. I don't want to see that.
Right.
Another segment of holding a good gunner down, making me pick third, and I continuously win.
15.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Something like that. There's that class that you've been looking for, Jen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening
Still looking.
to one classy edition of the early game here at 107.5 The Game.
Eastover, Columbia. This is 107.5 The Game. WNKT-FM.
Jen's got 37, so it would be next week.
You got that double audio, Jen?
Oh, weird.
Could be next week before I double up Jen.
So I think that's not what should be playing, Jen. It should be the satellite, right?
Yeah, it should be.
Should be able to stop the spot and pot up the satellite.
Barry Cooper just signed with the Jags.
Oh,
cool.
see you tomorrow, Hope, DC, Alan.
Yeah, thank you guys on the live stream. Appreciate it. We'll see you for a Friday edition. I don't think Bill will be here in the morning. He's going to be filling in for Heath.
Post-game edition. We'll do kind of a post-game show tomorrow afternoon, so tune in.
Thanks for your help, Jason. See you, man.